And welcome to the 88th Giro di Lombardia, and let's join Paul Sherwin, who's with Tony Rominger, the two-time winner.
Tony, you have excellent form at the end of this year. It looks as if you're one of the favourites for today's race, but it could be strange with the leader of the World Cup on your team.
No, I'm not the favourite here because I did win. Yes, I did win the Grand Prix d'Amérique, the Grand Prix of the Nation, but there are two different things. That's a time trial, and this is a race on the street. And I didn't train more than 4 or 5 hours, and then that could be a problem for me. And it's obviously my rhythm is very good in the mountains, but I saw the last day in Milan Turin there are some guys who are stronger than me, and I will see. For me, I already satisfied with this season. Here I'm here, and I try to do the best I can do.
But it's a race that you know very intimately. You've raced this race so well over the past few years. You've won it on occasion, and you must know the final two, and it must be a motivation to have Bortolami with you.
Yeah, but Bortolami did already win the World Cup, and for that it's no problem. We don't have to really race on the World Cup. Everybody can do the race, and the strongest will be in front, and we will help the strongest today, because the World Cup is already the win.
Lance, you made the World Cup your main objective this year. You're coming into the last one. You have still a chance to move up into maybe second place in the overall standings.
It's still a possibility, but and I have to admit it's a very, very difficult race, and there's a lot of motivated riders, being that the race is in Italy and being so difficult, and they're riding so strong this year. So it's not going to be easy to move up. I think possibly I play more of a defensive role today and try not to move down. But you never know. I mean, I can have a good day and surprise some people. I don't know.
But it's got to be an extra motivation because you live around this area, you know the climbs a lot more, you know all the riders who are going to be the main challengers as well.
Well, certainly this is as close to home as I'm going to race. It's close to my European home. But oddly enough, I don't have any feeling of extra motivation because it's my home. I'm a long ways from claiming this place as home. So.
But do you have any more motivation because of this race being a special race, because it's a very tough race, or do you think it's too hard for you? You've been consistent throughout the season. You've always been there in the World Cup races, and you're still in good form at the end of this season.
Yeah, the condition is good, and the course is hard, and typically it would suit me. It's possibly a little bit too hard, but harder is better than easier for me. So.
A little bit too hard, but the last few races have been quite strange as well, and you might be able to take advantage of the marking that's been going on recently.
Yeah, I think the strongest, the riders that people are looking to be the strongest Italians are not necessarily super strong right now with Chiappucci and Furlan. I just don't think they're 100%. So that could play a big effect. You have other guys with Casagrande and Jaskila who look much, much stronger. That can change the whole race.
Who are you going to watch today?
Well, Fondres is the smartest, and he's not 100% either, but he's the one who can make the most out of his ability. So he's probably not a bad guy to watch. Casagrande is the strongest, but I'm realistic and know that he's riding stronger than I am right now.
Okay. Well, Andy, normally we don't regard you as a rider for the World Cup races, but you seem to look forward to this race every year.
Yeah, this is my favorite race. This is, of the 5 days classics, this is the one that's most important to me. And certainly this year, since I haven't had any good results after my crash in June, this is what I based the last part of my whole season on. And I know I'm not at 100%, but I did pretty well in Milan-Torino a few days ago, and I know I have the fitness to do something. So, there's the big favorites that'll be battling it out, and I'm hoping they'll be more worried about each other, and that I'll be there and try to take advantage of it.
Who do you see the big favourites being today? Because obviously the Italians are racing on home ground, but your own teammate Lance Armstrong is lying in 5th place overall at the moment.
Yeah, there's, I have to admit, I haven't been in many World Cups, so the overall is a game I haven't been able to watch very much. The points are so top-heavy that someone can really come from a long way. So I don't know if the riders are keying off of that very much. But, if it's like any other GC, people pretty much want to stay where they're at or not get passed by anyone else. So if there's some of that game going on, I'll try to anticipate what other riders might be thinking. It'd be nice. I think we can move Lance into second So that would be an ideal situation. Probably more important, because it's more realistic, is we want to hang on to our second place on the team classification. But in order to do that, we have to have good results. So I think the first order of the day is just try to win the bike race.
Well, finally, it's going to be a sort of a special day for you today as well, because it's going to be the last time that you'll ride on the Motorola squad. Is that very difficult?
It's not difficult for today because it's a motivation. I really want to leave the team on a good note. And certainly after this little bit disappointing year, it'd be nice to have a nice result at the end of the year. But so that's a motivation. At the same time, it's I can't say I'm sad, because I look forward to the change that I'll be enjoying. But it's it's hard to leave. We've had a real good time together. I've certainly benefited from the 8 fantastic years with 7-Eleven and Motorola. So when I think about it outside of the race, it's hard.
It's surely hard, but in the past you've ridden with great riders like Bernard Hinault and Greg LeMond, and you've got the opportunity now to ride with Miguel Indurain. Yeah,
I see it as very similar to the way I started my pro career with La Viclaire in '86, where we had the best team in the world, and I was a ways down the ladder as far as who was working for who, but I had my own opportunities, and a lot of those were created because we had the 2 best riders in the Tour de France, and I was able to capitalize and do well, for the team, but also well for myself. So I know with riding for Miguel Indurain on Banesto, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm there to help him in the mountains, so my results will be secondary to that. But also, after my experience with La Viclaire, I know that also opens some opportunities, and I'm willing to exploit them.
A big work and a lot of challenge too.
A lot of challenge, but also a lot of motivation. What I really need at this point, after 10 years as a pro, is a bit different of motivation. I know I won't be doing this for so many more years. I want to learn as much as I can as I do it, and I think this is the best step for me to continue growing in the sport and not just be looking for a way to phase out a career.
Good. Well, we look forward to following you, Andy. Thank you.
So good luck to Andy Hampsten now as he starts yet another Giro di Lombardia. And the weather today is not the nicest, as the race goes on a circuit race, in fact, based in Monza, and includes 7 climbs. And we've now joined the race here on the 6th climb of the day at around 205 kilometres. It's the Col Brianza, and this leading breakaway contains Bjarne Riis. Udo Bolts is here, and the Gewiss rider is Vladislav Bobrik, and sitting at the back is Martin Den Bakker, the rider who was withdrawn on the eve of the Tour de France after a tragedy in his family when his sister was killed in a car accident. And so he's refound his form in very difficult circumstance, and now it looks as though on this climb here at Brianza the race is beginning to split up. The field behind has cracked wide open on the big climb of the day, the Madonna del Gisalo, where Pelliccioli, who won the King of the Mountains in the Tour du Pont, was the first over the top with a small lead of about 10 seconds ahead of 22 other riders. And now they're trying to reach up to these 4 riders, and there they are. So I think very shortly we're going to see quite a few big names coming up to the fore here. And not surprisingly, the Lamprey team, in the hope that Maurizio Fondries can do some good, is bringing them up. Fondries is number 61 down there in that leading group. And this has been a completely revamped race these last few years since they've chosen the new course with the climbs, and it's become a very tough race. There's Fondries on the inside, just adjusting the straps on his cycling shoes. And it's Belli, Vladimir Belli, who's setting the pace for him on the climb to keep him in touch with the leaders. Den Bakker here. And David Cassani, who had a very active World Championships, now in this breakaway in his club colours, or team colours rather. And Den Bakker. And the rider they're trying to hang on to is an attack by Bobrik. There's Cassani. Den Bakker. I think the rider in front is Bobrik. We're waiting to see who's gone away, but I think in fact it could well be Udo Bolts who's gone clear, because this is Bjarne Riis in the Gavis team. We've got 2 riders up here. The other one is Bobrick, and I think Bobrick has gone up on his own off the front, because this is Udo Bolt, slightly detached towards the end of the climb. So it is the Russian rider, Vladislav Bobrick, who's gone clear. Now you get a chance to look down the climb, and you can see just on our picture at the top there, the chase group. This is nowhere out of sight yet, this breakaway. These are very narrow roads here in Lombardy, and the Italians know them well. And good news for Bortolami. Before the race even started this morning, Tony Rominger indicated that they thought Bortolami had won the World Cup. He'd done enough to do that. In theory, if Andre Schmil did a great ride today, he could still lose the World Cup, but in practice, I don't think there's any chance of that. And in fact, Bortolami's main rival, Johan Muzier, didn't even start this morning, so he conceded victory in the World Cup competition. And it's Cassani setting the pace in that small group. And a lot of Lampe riders down there for Fondriest. Vladimir Belli, number 62. And 201 we're looking at there is Dmitry Konishev. This is a good ride in the World Championship. Zenin Yaskula just behind him, number 202. This is the unlucky team that never made the Tour de France selection this year. And Konishev and Yaskula, of course, were the 2 key men who really lost out there, and of course lost a lot of money as well. Here's Bobrick. So Vladislav Bobrick, who has been running in parallel, at least his professional career has been, with his teammate Evgeny Berzin. But Berzin hasn't really refound his form since his great victory in the Giro d'Italia, and he's not the most popular of riders either right now, for one reason or another, amongst the professional team. So he's going to have to do a little bit of straightening of the ways, I think. But he'll be back. Udo Bolt's had a marvellous Tour de France. He's really had a great year. An interesting little breakaway this now, and they're not going to want to take Fondriest up to it. And Bobrick is taking his chance well on this little climb. He's still looking very, very good, because the Gavis team have done so well this year. I suppose he feels the onus is now on him to have a go as well and do something, because he's coming towards the end of the year. He's certainly just putting everything into this attack right now. The Italians at least cheering on an Italian sponsor. And there's Fondriest making his move. Fondriest drives clear, and they've spotted him as well, Maurizio Fondriest. Well, this is one of the classic races that Maurizio does not have his name on. The Italians have won it 56 times out of a possible 87. And the champion of them all is the Campionissimo Fausto Coppi, who won it in 1946, 47, 48, 49, and then there was a gap before he won it again in 1954. Bobrick is the rider striking home early. He's leaving himself a long way to go, and there is still the climb of Lisolo to come. That comes at about 219, 220 kilometers, so you're just about 15 miles left to race off the top of the Solo, down back into Monza, which is just the northeast of Milan, by the way. And now you can see that over the top of the climb, the gaps are formed in the group. Try and get down there shortly and work out who's in this chase group. But here's one of them, that's Yaskula. Zenin Yaskula at the back. Good smooth road and a very, very fast descent this. Hardly need to touch the brakes, and you can keep up around 40, 45 miles an hour. Yaskula moving nicely through. This is Cassani near the back of the field. Again, a surprising rider who always delivers a good result. And Bobrik finding that big gear. He's churning out of the corners to keep the pace going. I think he's just riding here to wait and see what happens, because he knows they're not very far behind, but he doesn't know what damage has been caused on the climb there. And there's the answer. There are 7 riders now chasing him. The 7 riders. Fondriest is in this group, and Konishev, Kasani. He's not exactly waiting for them now as Vladislav Bobrik. I remember him in the Tour du Pont when he was a surprise early leader because he was a young Soviet amateur. Nobody ever heard of him. He broke away, he got the yellow jersey, and he held it for the majority of the race. But not when it mattered, nor on the stage that it mattered most, in the Catskill Mountains. There's Fondriest sitting at the back. Udo Bolt's alongside him, winner of the Tour of Cologne this year. And he probably feels he's due for a big win right now, because it's a while back since the Tour of Cologne. He had his big finish in the Tour de France as well. Surprisingly, Bolts, he is quite a developed climber in this last couple of seasons. I think Martin Den Bakker is still in this group as the riders start to come up. Erik Breukink in the Once colours, believing now that he is no longer on the team next year. He tried hard to put in a performance in the World Championships. It didn't quite work out in the end as he hoped. He was in that breakaway for so long, though, at the front. And now he's in this one again. So he's finding his form as the season closes down. Of course, all will change next year because so much moves later in the calendar with the Tour of Spain in September. And then you have the World Championship, first weekend of October. And then moving on, you've got the Giro de Lombardia even later, and the Tour of China, promoted by the organisers of the Tour du Pont, is expected to run October into November. Casagrande, Francesco Casagrande, is also in this group. Bolts follows round the corner. There's Fondriest, easy to pick out with his half legs on today. This looks like they're bringing them all back together again. Bolts is coming up. So a general regrouping here among the leaders at least. Vladislav Bobrik has been caught, first by Bolts, then by, I think it wasn't Fondriest that went through. There's Fondriest there, Den Bakker, Erik Breukink, and Jaskula. So it's an interesting little mixture of riders here. Not a lot of teams likely to dominate it either. Lampre have got 2, Gavis have got 2. I think the rest are basically all with 1. So that should give us a nice little attacking race now as Fondriest has a dig. Fondriest now going to have a go and see if he can take them onto the solo in the lead. Well, warning bells are being rung, and in fact that rider chasing just there was it was Erik Breukink. I thought it was Zula, but it was in fact Breukink who got across. He had glasses on there. Number 1 is Pascal Richard. The winner from last year has made the split. And Pascal Richard rode well last year, and what a season he's having. He had a dip in the middle, but it was almost by intention because Pascal won the 2 big tours early season in Switzerland, and that was the Tour of Romandy and the Tour of Switzerland. But he pulled out of the Tour de France, which is a big disappointment to us all, but he's come back again now. This is Robert Miller, who's in the next group on the road and trying to do something about it. Miller next year will join the new French team, Le Groupement. We'll say goodbye to the Dutch TVM squad. But he hasn't had a great season, Robert, this year. 1 or 2 flashes of life, but nothing really spectacular. Not by the standard that he himself set over the years, with his fine rides in the Tour de France, especially in the Pyrenees. And there's a lot of riders here just trying to get something going. There's nothing meshing together at the minute. They're looking around at each other. And nobody putting their head down and going for it. Breukink wants somebody to take up the chase. Bobrik not interested. He's done a lot of work. It looks like Den Bakker is the rider who's gone. But they're all back together again. Udo Bolts at the front. Dmitry Konishev looking around the corner, seeing where it goes. And now we start the climb of Le Solo. This puts the riders around about 218 kilometers covered now. Vladimir Belly is number 2. Konishev at the head of the race. There's the 2 early attackers still hanging on just about. Yaskula and Pascal Richard. Richard's gone a little bit early, but he may feel that this is the last chance on this climb to break the field. He's not a brilliant sprinter, Pascal, but Yaskula going with him. And of course Yaskula living here in Italy, racing on an Italian team, happy to perform in front of what to him is his home crowd now, the Polish rider. And there's Richard going with him and marking every move. Well, Pascal Richard has turned in some brilliant performances over the years, including the Championship of Switzerland, of course. He's won the Tour of Switzerland. And you can hear them shouting Yaskula's name. In fact, from the crowd there, the bunch are deciding quite what to do about it. Konishev dropped back a little bit, so too is Belly. And this is Richard leaving the work on the climb to Zenon Yaskula. Richard has also ridden well in cyclocross, won the world title back in 1988. He's a very, very good all-rounder, but this year has been outstanding for him. Stage win in the Giro d'Italia and the King of the Mountains. Overall victory in the Tour of Romandy, Tour of Switzerland. And now trying to defend the title he got here 1 year ago in the Tour of Lombardia. But he's not pushing the pace there. He's allowing Yaskula to do all of the work. Now, that's not the sign of a man trying to race to victory to me. Erik Breukink trying to cross the gap on his own. He's left the group on the climb of the solo. And Claudio Chiappucci is in this group and come from absolutely nowhere. There he is now, working away to try and get some reaction from the group. Sitting there on his back wheel is Francesco Casagrande. Such a consistent rider he is. Erik riding away. Climbing very, very steadily indeed, but it's Chiappucci who's pushing the pace up in that chase group. The great advantage of this course, when you're out on these small climbs, you're in this forested area, and the riders can't see you. Which is a terrific advantage. In which case, Yaskula would not see Claudio Chiappucci setting the pace here, as Casagrande sits behind him. We're coming up towards the summit now. Yaskula has led all the way up this climb. And Richard has just watched him, held his pace. Maybe he's trying to conserve just a little bit of energy, because the overall distance of 244 kilometers, that's around about 152 miles. And in fact, I think Yaskula was more or less encouraging Pascal to come through there, but nothing doing. Once over the top of the climb, he's got round about 15 miles down to the finish. 15 difficult miles, although there's no real challenge as far as the terrain is concerned, but they haven't got a very big gap at all. Zenon Yaskula has had a good climb. Pascal Richard looks over his shoulder. He won't see anything at all except the bend on our motorbike. And now, if he's got the strength in his legs, he's going to have to contribute to that pace. This is Chiappucci and Casagrande. Another example of the fine pacemaking by Chiappucci. He's always happiest when he's doing all of the work himself. And the Mappe rider there, who's sitting just behind, in fact, it wasn't Rominger, it was Mauro Gianetti. The pressure off Mappe though, because they know now they've won the World Cup. Andre Schmil is not in among these leaders at all, which means that even the theoretical chance of winning the World Cup have gone now. Bortolami isn't in the hunt either. In fact, he's in the next group on the road and losing time. But it must be nice to finish the final event in the World Cup knowing you haven't got to score any points and knowing one of your main rivals didn't start, the other one's out of it, and that you'll run out the winner. And it really has been a dramatic turnabout for Bortolami this season. The domestique who became the star. Great wins in 2 of the classics, 6th place in San Sebastian. And it all happened in the second half of the World Cup season. We never heard of him in the opening rounds. And just look at this now. Up to the top of the climb, the false descent, then the climb, and Jaskula has cracked, and Richard knew this course so well. He's gone and left him. He's left him for dead, and I don't know whether he's left him with enough time because Jaskula has blown completely. He must have thought that Pascal was suffering to do all of the work on the climb, and Richard certainly wasn't suffering at all because he's gone. So can we be treated now to a fine end-of-season victory for last year's winner of the Tour of Lombardy, Pascal Richard of Switzerland? I think that this breakaway will pick up Jaskula, then they will know they've got a big problem. Fondriest is still here. Ginetti, Breukink, Belli, and that is Bobrick. So Bobrick, despite his attack, has come back. Well, hasn't come back. He hasn't been dropped by this group. But here's the man now putting home the attack. Pascal Richard slips it up a gear, takes a drink. He still, to me, isn't fully committed here. It's almost as if he's waiting for them to come back. Normally, he'd be down and he'd be racing flat out. But look, I think, in fact, he's waiting for Jaskula. He didn't want to drop him. I think he's waiting for Jaskula to rejoin him because he feels the finish is too far away. Now, that might be a mistake. Casagrande goes to the back, checks out who else is left. Only Bobrick behind you. And still he freewheels, and that is why, indeed, he has waited for Zenon Jaskula to come back, so it was an unintentional move there. He didn't attack him at all. But they haven't got a very big lead now. I'm not sure whether Richard should have gone there and taken the gamble at having the legs to the finish. But he should know his body better than I do. Because this race behind now has settled down once again. Most of the work is being done by Claudio Chipucci. And it seems, although Jaskula is back, it's left to Pascal Richard to keep the pace going. 8 chasers here. The big survivors of the pack of 24, which established after the climb of the Madonna del Gisalo. Fondriest going through. Would dearly love this title to go on his long list of honours. In fact, the Italians would dearly like a win here. They haven't had a win in their own classic here. Oh, since 1987, Moreno Argentin. Another man who's joined the long list of retirements this season, not just this race. Some very big names giving up the sport this year. They've just got too old, and it's a great sadness because over the 10 years or so, there have been some great personalities in the peloton, like Sean Kelly, who will not race again after this season. Well, now they're really driving on this short climb now. And the cars up ahead, I don't think that the cars leading the pack. I think they are the cars on the tail of the 2 leaders. And Richard's decided on a small climb, it's got to go again. It's no good waiting for Zenon because he is tired. He's gone again. And now it's up to last year's winner. He's got it all to do by himself. And his gap is only a small one over the main field. Fondriest trying to break them up here. Casagrande comes up, so too does Eric Breukink. They're going to find Zenon Jaskula all the midships out in the open road very shortly, but they'll know then that Pascal Richard, the defending champion, has gone for gold. He's been forced to go early, I think. He clearly doesn't feel that good, otherwise he would have gone the first time he dropped this man Liascula. Liascula just hanging on, keeping his rhythm, not panicking. But look at the difference in pedaling ratios. Okay, I think Pascal here is on a slight downhill. But now he's looking like a much more committed man than he was a few moments ago, as Belli keeps the pace up in the chase group. Chiappucci takes a good look at Fondriest and probably asks him, what are you doing at the back here, Maurizio? Richard, the road's still in his favour, keeps out of sight of that chase group. Liascula, and I think all the car horns behind are indicating they want to get past, because there they are. So Liascula has been caught, and now they know there's still one to come, and here he is. Pascal Richard is on his own. His gap is around about 30 seconds. Eric Breukink, just a tap there to Claudio Chiappucci to let him go through the front. David Cassani. Now the tactics are going to swing around. Claudio Chiappucci, another man who's been nearly there but never quite in the Tour of Lombardy, as he has been indeed in so many races. And Breukink. Well, there is no committed chase here at all. One can understand Cassani because his teammate's up the road. He's just riding number 2 and trying to keep the gap open as long as possible. It's around about still 30 seconds. But the others have no excuse. They should really bury themselves, get round Cassani and start the chase back. Cassani's going to hang there as long as he can in second place. Fondriest has gone to the front now. Fondriest and Belli do seem to be throwing it around, but with no coordination. Normally when you get two teammates in a breakaway, they ride together so they know each other's plans and thoughts when it comes to outwitting the rest of the break. But these two are all over the show. Bobrik hasn't done a thing since he was caught on that solo breakaway. There he is at the back. There's Konishev, 201. And in fact, Chiappucci's decided to try and liven things up. Cassani tries to get his wheel, but the gap has opened a little bit there as Chiappucci goes. But David Cassani is digging in deep, just like he did in the World Championships when he rode for Italy and blocked many attacks in those closing kilometres. With a similar action, get the wheel, sit up and freewheel. And in fact, Chiappucci has realised that Cassani is hooked up and has desisted. Fondriest coming across, so now we get back to the leader. He really does look fluid now, Pascal Richard, reflecting as he rides along through the streets here in the Tour of Lombardy of a great, great season for him. He's now 30 years of age, Pascal Richard. Been a pro for 8 years. Has had some excellent results these last 2 or 3 years. First came to note of, I suppose, all the followers of road racing when he won a slight uphill sprint in Briançon in the Tour de France in the year Greg LeMond won in 1989. He was then the national champion of Switzerland, and since then he's lost the title, he's won it back and he's lost it again. Chiappucci is getting a bit frustrated with this breakaway, or chase group. Nobody is helping him at all. Look at this. And I must say, they've got no reason to sit on, unless they're planning a lone attack, quite frankly. Cassani's the only man with a valid reason, and he's just riding there, number 2 wheel all of the time, following Fondriest now. And you see how the roads favour the lone break here. Can't see him at all when he's more than 200 or 300 yards away. Still, Pascal Richard hanging on to just a few seconds, but enough maybe. He's out of sight. An attack has gone off the front, but we've gone back to the main leader here, Pascal Richard. His face is telling us nothing. This is the group here, Casagrande nearest camera, and Casagrande going to have a go, and Cassani looks across because there's the breakaway that went, and Fondriest has done nothing about it. And this is an interesting break because I think there are 3 riders have gone up the road here. Chiappucci is one, trying to get onto them. An interesting move this. It could be Udo Bolts has gone up there as well. In fact, it's a Fondriest up here. Fondriest up here, that was Belli back there. And it's Gianetti and Chiappucci. So Fondriest has waited and waited and waited. He knows the course, he knows this short climb, and he's gone on it. But he won't be too happy with the fact that Chiappucci has paid attention. Come across. Mauro Gianetti is the rider in the middle for Mappé. And this is the rider who now wants to see exactly where he is, Pascal Richard. And the group is growing. I think that's Konishev who's come across the gap, leaving 5 riders to bridge. And Eric Breukink, surprisingly, is the one missed out, along with David Cassani and Bobrik. And they're all going to get across. It's going to be Cassani, Bobrik, Breukink, Jaskula. Fondriest now working well. So too Chiappucci. It's not over yet, this race. Gianetti. Now you can see the face there of David Cassani. He looked as though he was smiling, but I can assure you he certainly was not. He's desperately trying to stop every move that comes out of this chase group now in the hope that Richard can hang on. Then he'll share in the spoils of victory here. But I think Cassani is starting to feel the pace as well. Bobrik is now chipping in as well with this breakaway, you see. Belli is getting back up front to try and do something about it too. But again, that breakaway has hesitated because they've seen the length of the straight, and they've probably just seen at the very end of the straight those cars. Now that's, I think, a little bit further ahead than they imagined that breakaway was. So now they've started to rethink their plans. So Breukink having a go alone. Eric Breukink. And Fondriest is coming back, and they pick up Eric. It doesn't seem to be Eric's day at all. Every move he makes, they're after him. One of the best paid riders in the world over the years, Eric Breukink. In fact, Bobrik has gone here. Now it's Bobrik's turn to attack, and he slipped away. So he's gone off in pursuit of Pascal Richard, and it looks a very determined move, this. And Chiappucci has decided to sprint away from the group. Chiappucci goes after Bobrik. And I would expect them to counter the move at least of Chiappucci, even if not Vladislav Bobrik. And Chiappucci has closed the gap. Now we've got 2 riders free of the pack. They might get down to some work, but in fact Chiappucci's going to go straight by him, is he? No, he's going to grab his wheel for a moment. Take a few deep breaths and then see what he's got. Now Bobrik will note the wheel through his legs, which he did, and he says, well, you can come and do some work, which he also did. Bobrik taking the wheel now of Claudio Chiappucci, the young pro and the old hand. Well, the effort has split the chase again, and it's left to Fondriest to try and salvage it. Udo Bolts trying to hang on with Gianetti. And the 2 teammates are dropped now, Jaskula and Konishev. Well, all this happening about 30 seconds behind the leader on the road, Pascal Richard. They've got some idea where he is now because they have seen him on that long straight as we pull back, and there is a chase now, so they are closing in on Pascal. He's not home and dry by any means. So this last World Cup event being run off in overcast conditions here as we head towards Monza, with a temperature around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfect for racing. But as Vladislav Bobrik, well, he should know about cold weather up in the north of Russia, but he's wearing arm warmers today. He's probably been anaesthetised over the year by the warm weather, though, of Italy. And there is the figure of Pascal Richard, and I don't think those cars should be kept in there much longer because they are now providing the carrot for the chasers to get on. Well, these last few kilometres into Monza on flat roads are going to be an awful long way for Pascal Richard, last year's winner this year of Romandy and Switzerland, King of the Mountains in the Tour of Italy. And a fine turn of speed now by Claudio Chiappucci, sensing that he may have the edge on that chase group, coaxes Bobrick through. Bobrick also noting over his shoulder. There's the man they're hunting, Pascal Richard, who's really gone for goal on the last climb of the day. And there's the gap, and it's not much, I would say 15 seconds maybe. And Bobrick sensing there's a chance here as well. But it would be a big surprise if Bobrick was to pull this one off. He's done nothing of this quality in his life. But of course the game of his team always seem to be popping up with the big victories, as we've seen throughout the year with their fine victory by Berza in the Tour of Italy this year. And now we've got Pascal Richard. I was about to say he's not daring to look over his shoulder, but he just has, and he knows now it's going to be touch and go whether he can stay on board. It really is going to be difficult, but he'll try, I think. And he's just checking and checking. That's a sign of a man who really is tired now, a man who doubts his own ability to see the line. And there's the chase. Long straight road, no longer are the conditions now in the favour of the hare. Because now I think these two greyhounds are going to bring him back. They're sharing the work equally, and Bobrick is fully committed now. He made his move about 20k back, which failed, and I thought that was him cooked because he went to the back of the break and did nothing, but all he was doing was recovering to go again. Chiappucci read the move, always willing to have a race and a chase is Claudio Chiappucci. Immediately caught up with Bobrick, and now it looks like both of them are going to catch up with Richard, but I'll tell you what, we're in the last kilometre, and we're in the last kilometre to go, and it still could be now Pascal Richard who is going to win this one. A tremendous chase indeed, but Richard, justifiably so, would be a perfect winner of this race for the second year. There's a number of riders over history have repeated this chance. But look at this. And now suddenly, Bobrick not willing to challenge at all, making Chiappucci. There's the experience of the man. Bobrick is gambling now that group will not close in, because I think he's going to try and out-jump Claudio Chiappucci. This young Russian rider, young professional. Oh, and look at this. Pascal Richard is in sight of the finishing line as Chiappucci makes the last effort. Chiappucci goes, and they're going to catch him, you know, they're going to catch him in the last 100 yards. Pascal Richard is trying desperately to raise the sprint now, and Claudio Chiappucci, his face tells the story. Bobrick comes on the far left, and Vladislav Bobrick is going to get it. Vladislav Bobrick will take it for Russia. The first Russian victory in the history of the Giro de Lombardia, and the first win for Vladislav Bobrick. Second, Claudio Chiappucci, and third was Pascal Richard. And now it comes to the sprint for fourth place. Konishev is now leading out. And Konishev leading out Fondriest, and Fondriest hasn't the legs this time. A good result for Russia today, first and fourth. And Cassani there in sixth. Bjorn Ries comes in seventh. Udo Bolts, Mauro Gianetti. And that's Martin Den Bakker. He comes home in 10th place. And Eric Breukink here, is he going to have a little sprint with Belly? I don't think he is. It looks like Casagrande is, though. Casagrande will finish 11th. And Belly and Breukink crossing the line almost together. But there is the winner, 23 years of age, Vladislav Bobrick. And he just gets what is his second win of a 2-year pro career. And this time, it's a classic event. And this is how he did it from the air. Poor old Pascal Richard, he almost made it. But a brilliantly timed effort by Swiatoslav Bobrick. He went clear of Claudio Chiappucci after making Chiappucci do all of the running over those last couple of 100 metres to the line. And then he gave it just about everything he had in the last 100 metres. No doubt he deserved that victory indeed, because he was on the attack much earlier and coming clear of Chiappucci and a very, very disappointed Pascal Richard. Third place will be no consolation. And what a season for the Gavis team. They started with Giorgio Furlan winning Milan-San Remo. They finished with Bobrick winning the Tour of Lombardy. Let's go to Paul Sherwin.
What a superb finish to the 1994 season with the final round of the World Cup, the Giro di Lombardia. An incredible finish. We didn't really expect it to go that way. I honestly thought Pascal Richard was going to hold out to the line, but that is what professional cycling is all about. I hope you've enjoyed this year's coverage of the World Cup events. Please come on back and join us next year with famous cycling videos, coverages of the major events in the world of international cycling: Paris-Roubaix, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Tour of Flanders, and of course the Tour of Lombardy. Thank you for joining us.
And as you join us now, a breakaway of 5 riders. This really forming after some 23 riders got away and developed a move on the Madonna del Gisala. And these 5 going clear. 242 kilometres the distance today. 166 starters on the line. And this is the breakaway listed for us: Maximilian Sciandri, Giorgio Furlan, Pascal Richard, Claudio Chiappucci and Ivan Gotti of Italy. 4 Italians facing 1 Swiss rider, Pascal Richard. And this is the Motorola rider here, Max Sciandri. Having just about his best season, Max. He finished 3rd in Milan-San Remo, 5th in the Amstel Gold, 5th in the Tour of Flanders, 2nd in Henninger Term and won the Tour of Luxembourg. You can't complain about that in World Cup racing. 4th in the Leeds Classic. And as a man who is set for a high finish now in the World Cup competition, and this could be the icing indeed. Maurizio Fondries, the clear leader, and will be the winner of that competition by the end of the day. The Italian, and he'll be the first man to win the World Cup twice. There's the course. We've been over these 2 climbs now. Just Lisolo to come, or the last one rather, but basically the hills behind us. Anybody going to go clear, they've got to go on this small climb. Let's keep Chiappucci at the back. You can hear 1 or 2 shouts there. And this is Robert Miller here now, trying to do something on the small climb to try and get across to the leading group as the last climb begins, Lisolo. And it leads them a run down to the finish in Monza. It's a much more active race these days. And Ariostia, last time we'll see those colours in action, by the way, because they leave the sport at the end of this season. Giorgio Furlan is the rider up there, along with Pascal Richard. They've got 2 riders in this breakaway, Ariostia, and a chance to play a few cards perhaps. Sciandri knows it well. He's riding at the back here now. Got a very, very good finish and his best form ever. Leaving Motorola at the end of the season, largely because he feels he needs an Italian team to be part of the Italian World Championship selection. Strange life history, Max, because he was born in Britain. His family now live in California, and he speaks fluent Italian and is certainly a naturalized Italian these days. And this is Chiappucci now on the climb. Do or die for Claudio. trying desperately to hang on to this small group. Now a chance for our really brave motorcycle pilot to get through on Claudio Chiappucci to find Sciandri here. And on we go. So Chiappucci's not had the legs on that climb at all, neither has Sciandri. And we're now finding the survivors are here. And they're the two Arioste riders, Furlan and Richard. Up towards the top of the climb, Pascal Richard, Giorgio Furlan. Beautiful day today. The race was highlighted at the start by a long breakaway by the French rider Eddy Seigneur and Edwig van Hooijdonk. The maximum lead of almost 5 minutes was eventually wiped out on the climb of the Esina Lario. And from that moment on, Pascal Richard has played quite a moment in this race. He's been in every move since. And now he's in this move here with his teammate. Now there's a difficult decision if these two riders have to fight out the finish. Teammates, one an Italian, who should win the race? Road's drying off a little bit now, but it's a very, very pleasant autumn day in Lombardy. Known as the Autumn Leaves Classic. It's an excellent name for as the trees begin to change their colour. Although we've had such a great summer, there's no sign of that in these pictures, is there? Now this is Sciandri trying to get back on terms with Chiappucci. And the two of them now, a two-up team time trial. And the chase down by Claudio Chiappucci and Max Sciandri, the only two riders in the chase back. And Max is so fired up this season, quite happy to keep this pace going. He's done so well this year, Max. He's set for a good finish in the World Cup, which is all he wants. Motorola might be sad to lose Sciandri this year. And so two Italians chasing, one Italian and a Swiss in the lead. And it looks to me as though, in fact, the chase is proving profitable. I don't think they're very far ahead here, as Chiappucci's making a run, and so too Sciandri. They look to be riding very strongly indeed, but so do to these two. And 10 seconds is the confirmed gap. It's nothing. Nothing at all. Furlan. And then Pascal Richard, former world cyclocross champion. And that lovely position of Max Sciandri there. Nice long reach, plenty of power coming out of him. And indeed, he can produce quite a sprint when it matters, on the occasion that he has to. There's a look down the legs of Max Sciandri. On the last drinks of the day, I would think. And here is Claudio Chiappucci. Probably the most popular of the Italian riders, Claudio. Giorgio Furlan. Getting late in the afternoon now as you watch two Arioste riders almost in unison. Furlan is at the back, and here's a rider who's had a great year as well. Finished 6th in Milan-San Remo, 4th in the Tour of Romandy. That's the Swiss stage race, the stage of the Giro d'Italia under the belt. And he finally finished 12th overall in that race as well. So he's had a good season and he's going to be pleased with that. Now Motorola with news. Jumokovic passing on the message there to Max Sciandri, and he's going to tell him you've got just 10 seconds to bridge, and go for it. Sciandri 3rd overall in the World Cup competition and going to score well here. Fondriest will run out the winner of that championship for the 2nd time, and Max is getting plenty of help here from Claudio Chiappucci. He's concentrating on the back wheel there of Chiappucci. Workman-like figure there of Claudio. There they are. They're only just up the road. He keeps putting his head down and driving, looking up and hoping he sees them a little bit closer. Long turn here by Claudio Chiappucci indeed. Too fast, I think, for Max. There's the two leaders. The two Arioste riders are now not very far from the finish, but can they hang on? Furlan. No sign of panic on their faces yet. Looked over his shoulder, word to Pascal. I think because of the proximity of the chase, they haven't even had a chance to decide which one of them is going to win, or whether they've decided that it will be a free fight for all. Because the chase is just off their back wheels, and Richard doesn't look too good to me. Head on one side, always in and out of the saddle. Furlan seems to be the strong rider here. Following the line down the centre of the road. You see the gap there, and Richard's uncomfortable. He's looking round all the time. He's not concentrating. And there they are. They're almost on him. We're in the streets of Monza. We've got to get through to the finish line, though. And it really demands something special now from one of these two riders. The long legs of Maximilian Chandri. Claudio takes a drink, holds the wheel of Maximilian. Look at this now, what a pursuit. Nothing in between the two groups. And that's good to see. So it's all effort from the two chasers if they're going to cross this gap. Well, that's going to be about 7 seconds now. And Richard gone back to the front. Well, it's a case of finishing first and second, or I would think third and fourth if those two catch up. They're trying to save energy at the same time as hold the gap open here. They're just trying to hold on to something. Furlan goes through now. Richard. More urgency. Kicks well. Gets onto the wheel of his teammate. He needs to hold that wheel. Furlan, who turned pro just 3 seasons ago, started off well by winning the Italian National Championship. That was his first win as a pro. That's where we are now, outskirts of Monza. 9 kilometers or 5 and a bit miles. It's an awful long way. When you keep looking over your shoulder at the chase, they could well catch up. The two leaders are around. Well, so often the Giro de Lombardia has a good finish like this, and it hasn't let us down again today. Now, this is the sort of highway they didn't want to see at this stage of the race. Chiappucci. Well, there's no challenge at all coming from the back. These four are in it for the first, second, third and fourth prizes. And if anything, that gap, well, it looks to me from this position from the helicopter as though it may well have extended slightly. So maybe they've gone through that psychological moment and they've started to go away again. Even at this stage of the game, you see Chandri is allowing long turns by Claudio Chiappucci rather than doing short and fast relays. Monza is approaching quickly into the cobble streets now. Well, now this race has become point-to-point Monza, taking in these 7 climbs. It's a much better race. Well, the only Swiss rider to have ever won this race, by the way, is Tony Rominger. Rominger, who won it last year in 1992, and indeed he's won it twice. Now Richard is here, possibly to alter that. Or will Furlan make it the 57th victory for the Italians? 6 hours now. And the finish almost here. About 5 indeed at the most. Furlan still has plenty to go in those legs. He's still trying, because I think Richard is not quite firing at the same strength at all. It is most unusual. He's saying something there too, Giorgio. It's most unusual to see two teammates in the lead and nobody else around them, but that's what we've got here. And it could well have been, in fact, that Richard asked Giorgio Furlan there how far to go. But the gap is going up, and I find that extraordinary, but it looks as though they are going clear instead of being caught. At around 9 kilometers to go, they had, well, I would have said no chance. Now they've got every chance. These two seem to have settled into a rhythm which is not quick enough. The right turn. A little circuit around the city. And there's going to be no way now they'll get caught, I think, and I think that's probably the message that's just come from Giancarlo Ferretti. And I wonder if he said, and also, by the way, you two can fight out the finish, may the best man win, because I'm sure that's got to be the decision now. The gap has gone out by a further 11 seconds. Always difficult, unless we'll be treated to the holding of hands and the going over the line together. But so often when you do that, for the sake of the history books, the referees usually split you anyway. Furlan is unloading excess baggage. And the race coming round to the industrial finishing area. And it's going to be a finish for these two, and it's going to be in low. Look, the gap's gone way out now. 1 minute 50 seconds. They cracked them over the last 2K. And there's the confirmation coming to the riders at the same time as we go under the kilometre kite. 1 kilometre to go. And I think Ferretti is probably saying it's over to you two. Whichever way you permutate these riders, Arioste will get first and second. Now, I wonder if we're going to see any real dodging around here. Well, if they start playing cat and mouse like this, and it looks as though they're going to do just that, that chase group is going to close in. Furlan has the advantage in second place. Richard knows it. Richard takes a look. They're both taking. This is amazing. What an amazing finish to a classic race. Two teammates, and their only rivals now are each other. Quite clearly, they've made the decision the best man will win, but Furlan wants to be that man too. And he's had a good season. And of course, he's Italian. There's the chasers. The gap has shut right down again now. Just one last chance, perhaps. Claudio and Chandri. Well, I wish our camera would get back to those two leaders and see what exactly is going on for first and second as Claudio winds it up here for only third. And now we go to the finish camera. This is it. But you know, they really are gambling. That's Furlan in the lead here now. So Pascal, while we're off camera for a while there, has managed to get into second position and the advantage of the sprint. The whole field in the top straight now, but they're too far behind. We're going for the sprint here now. So, in fact, Furlan has been forced to launch the sprint, but now comes Pascal Richard, is shoulder to shoulder. So Pascal Richard is going to get Switzerland's second ever victory, well, third victory, second different man, as Pascal Richard takes it from Furlan, and the sprint for third place. Chiappucci no match for Max Chandri. And now this is a small group just off the front here. Massimo Podenzana is the Italian champion at the back. This looks like Jesper Skibby leading here. And Piotr Ugrimov also in this group. And Charlie Motte. So they've just got away in the closing kilometres. Skibby goes for it now. Motte's right behind Jesper Skibby. But Skibby's a good finisher indeed. And Motte taking him on, and Motte, I think, is going to get it on the line. Motte coming with Skibby shoulder to shoulder. Motte's on the left. He's clear and takes it. Motte, Skibby, Ugrimov and Podenzana. But this was the race for the victory. And a little piece of history here. The two Arioste riders fighting it out, shoulder to shoulder. And the rider on the left, Pascal Richard of Switzerland, the former world cyclo-cross champion, gets it by about 3/4 of a length. And he pips Giorgio Furlan, who must be very disappointed. Another chance from the side camera, and as you see in the end, he timed his sprint to perfection, and it was just about a length. So Pascal Richard gets the victory, follows on from the victory of Tony Rominger last year, and a couple of years before that Rominger also won as well. And a congratulations there from the World Cup winner to Giorgio Furlan, and that's Maurizio Fondries now for the second time, the holder of the World Cup, and what a marvellous season he has had. He's won more races than anyone. And so the Italians had their moments of glory, but indeed they must be a little bit disappointed that the wrong man, as far as the Italians are concerned, won the Giro di Lombardia, the 87th edition. But at the end of the day, they can salute Maurizio Fondries, the World Cup winner. And so, I must say, it's been an excellent season this year, and there's been no doubt about the dominant personality, apart from Miguel Indurain, of course. It's been Maurizio Fondries. There's the result of the Giro di Lombardia: Richard Furlan Chandri, Chiappucci, Motte Skibby, Ugrumov, Podenzana, and Dmitry Konishev finally coming home in 9th place. The American Andy Hampston was 29th. Well, this 86 Giro di Lombardia is going to be remembered for the atrocious weather here. It's also bitterly cold, as you can see. Vyacheslav Yekimov on the Panasonic team moving through in this line. Again, it's been a war of attrition today. This is the remnants of the front of the race. It's all that's left, really. They're absolutely soaking wet, and I think they need a big morale now to keep the pace going very, very strongly indeed. A lot of riders have dropped out so far. And the Italians are very much still in the action here. And just take a look at some of the images as they pass before the camera. Franz Massen there, not looking at all happy with the way he's going, but he's pedaling pretty quickly. And they're trying to get this small group is staying compact, but they're clear of the rest of the field. And Yekimov doing a lot of the work in this lead group. A lot of surface water as well, making the descents very, very treacherous. Gianni Bugno's in this group too. And the Gatorade team are looking for him to deliver the goods. You've got Raul Alcala up here, Cassani, Sorensen, Hamburger, Bo Hamburger, the new young pro, David Rebellin, another young pro, Stephen Hodges here. Helvetia rider beat Zeeberg, here he is. And now on the last climb, they're trying to do something about splitting this field up. Tony Rominger is in this group. Beat Zeeberg sets the pace. Probably the safest place to be right now, I would think, the way this rain is coming down. Further up the climb, the Gatorade boys are trying to split this field up. But there's a chase group behind, and in fact it covers most of the star names, and I don't think they're going to get back. Even Stephen Roach is trapped in that back group as well. And this looks like Claudio Chiappucci is having a go. And Chiappucci's going for gold on his own here. He looks as though he's dressed for a training ride, quite frankly, but he's going. Now, what's he done? He just loves the Tour of Lombardy, Chiappucci, and now he's trying to get a result. Well, the winner last year, Sean Kelly, is way down. Now a second counter group. This is coming away. This looks like David Cassani, the little rider there. And that indeed is Cassani, and Tony Rominger going forward with him. So they're trying to bridge the gap to the two leaders at a very, very crucial stage of the race. And Raul Alcala has noted the attack, and he's come forward from that group as well. So a good move by the Mexican PDM rider. And in fact, Chiappucci is now taking a look over his shoulder, and there's a group forming at the front. And this is it now. Chiappucci at the back, handing in his gloves or his cape or something there, was Tony Rominger. Cassani is number 41, and he looks as though he's dressed for a summer race, not for the freezing conditions of today. And the other rider is Raul Alcala. So these four riders on the last climb of the day. And in typical fashion, Claudio Chiappucci sets the pace. Rominger will feel very contented with that. Rominger is a classics rider, there's no doubt. Raul Alcala, the first and only Mexican to win a stage of the Tour de France. And they're settling into a nice little four-man breakaway here. They're not that far ahead yet, though. Just trying to get a glimpse at the face of Rominger to see if it tells us anything, but certainly Chiappucci is fired. And judging by all of the cars now behind, the gap has gone up to over 2 minutes on the rest of the race. So they're well clear. We're going to see the 86 Giro de Lombardia decided by one of these four riders, and Chiappucci. Rominger has consistently followed the wheel of Chiappucci. And Cassani in need of a good win, always around. So we're about 5 kilometers from the finish here. And Tony Rominger, a pro since 1986, lives a fine life in Monaco. As Cassani grabs a bottle. And he's had a great season, second in Paris-Nice, fifth in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Tour of Spain, which he won, and fourth in the World Championships. You can't complain about those performances this year. He really is the man on form. And this is the chase to try and get Bugno back into the action, led by Gatorade, but I don't in fact see Bugno in the group at all. And they're a long way behind. And just look at these conditions now as we come up towards the finish. They really are the worst we've seen. Our cameras can't show you much else, I'm afraid. They'll take the cars off, and then we're going to see the sprint out. And it's a long time since I recall weather like this in the Tour of Lombardia, but it couldn't be much worse. And Claudio Chiappucci won that dramatic stage in the Tour de France de Sestriere this summer and finished second in both the Tour de France and Tour of Italy in that breakaway with Rominger. And somewhere in those lights there's only one rider. Look, there's only one rider here, and it looks like Tony Rominger. Rominger has gone away on his own. Tony Rominger has slipped them, and he's going to win, and he'll be the first Swiss rider ever to win the Tour of Romandie for a second time, I hasten to add, but he's still the only one. He also won it back in 1989. Just a little look over the shoulder like all professionals do to make sure, and then salute the crowd, and what a day to win under. My goodness me. So Tony Rominger is going to be first over the line. There's no sign of anybody behind. And Rominger salutes the crowd, and you remember this victory today, and you remember what a great season he's had as well. Winner of the Tour of Spain for the first time. And this looks like the lone figure of Claudio Chiappucci, so the men have had the great seasons get first and second. Chiappucci coming up to the line now. His life seems to be full of second places. Second in the Tour of Italy, second in the Tour de France, now second in the Tour of Lombardy. So he comes home in second place, and it's the clock counting down, coming up towards 40 seconds on the line. As he crosses the line. And so Claudio Chiappucci outwitted by a Swiss rider in the closing kilometres of the race. And in dreadful conditions as well. It's hard to tell when he's happy, Claudio, but this is what beat him. Tony Rominger getting his second win in the Tour of Lombardy, establishing himself as a great classic rider. And you see the lights down in the distance. Well, that in fact was Claudio Chiappucci coming in, who had been dropped in the closing kilometres. And a smile and a cough as well for Tony Rominger as he prepares to lift this rather large trophy at the end of a long cold day in the Tour of Lombardy. But he gets his victory by 41 seconds ahead of Claudio Chiappucci. David Cassani got an excellent third place. Fourth, Raul Alcala, but over 5 minutes back in the end, Sorensen, Zeeberg, Boltz and Hamburger. And Andy Hampson of the United States finished in 16th place in that group, around 7 minutes and 56 seconds back. So from a wet and cold Giro de Lombardia, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye.
Only 23 years old.
And he might do well to remember too that Oscar Camazin, who was something of a surprise winner himself for the world title last year, then won this event and hopes to defend that title today. The climb here was 962 metres high, a real tester. Pascal Richard was an early attacker when we went over the climb of the Madonna del Gisalo, but since then he was reeled in. There's the gap at the moment. One rider chasing at 41 seconds, and then the main field down to only 50 men. They were a little further back at 52 seconds. These two riders really acting as a carrot with such a long way still to go towards the finish, and Barbaro willing to work with the new world champion. I think, Paul, possibly a show of bravado here by Oscar Freire, because since he won the world title he's found the pro sport a little bit tough.
Very difficult indeed. He's hardly slept at all at night. Several solicitations and still a lot of negotiations going on about where he's going to actually race for next year, because now his contract wasn't negotiated with Vitaligo Seguros. They were trying to sign him up before the start of the World Championships, but he must have known exactly what was in the back of his mind, because he didn't want to sign anything till after the Worlds. Pretty sensible move.
Well, yes, as it turns out, because remember that was only his 12th day of cycling under competition this year, and he landed the world title. Well, looking here now at Barbaro, a rider who turned pro back in 1993 for Mercatoni Uno, and his best performance ever, second in the Grand Prix of Zurich this year, so he's on a bit of form, and he's got himself 3 wins so far in the pro scene.
An exceptional rider, Barbaro, very aggressive. Going out on a move like this really is showing yourself off to the Italian crowds, because this is the final race of the year for the Italians. It is a major event, and I don't think this was really a breakaway that anyone thought was ever going to succeed, but certainly it has put a lot of pressure on the rest of the field. The first hour of racing at 43 kilometers an hour will have a lot of riders with heavy legs going into the last hour and a half of racing.
Well, this climb here of Salvino is the first of a number of climbs. This one, as you can see, takes us up to 962 meters. Then we've got 3 in quick succession: the climb of the Older and the Forquella di Bara, also in excess of 700 meters rather of climbing. And these are tempting the other riders to come out and play, I think. In that chase group is the defending champion, or the defending leader of the World Cup, André Schmil. Remember, he's on a one-on-one battle today with Michael Bogert, who finished second in this race last year. Bogert needs to win, and Schmil finishing no worse than 4th if he's going to run out for the first time the winner of the World Cup. The man not starting, Paul, rather sadly, after his accident in the World Championships, Frankie van den Broeke.
Yeah, shame, because Van den Broek was looking a really good rider for the end of the season here, with a couple of stage victories in the recent Tour of Spain and a great performance at the World Championships, when you think he finished up there in the top 10 with a cracked scaphoid, a small bone in his hand. So a shame not to see him here riding, because he could really have put the cat amongst the pigeons on a course like this, because this is certainly the sort of course that would have suited him. But it'll be a big ride today by André Schmil, because this is one of the classics that André Schmil has never really enjoyed. He's not a great climber. He's never been very good in races like Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but today he has to mark the Rabobank leader Michael Bogert if he's going to win the World Cup for the first time.
Well, we may be looking at the world champion on this midway climb, but as you see, the gap now down to 30 seconds, and behind in that group is also Jan Ullrich, who's finishing his year with a flourish. And what a strange season it has been, but everybody riding well now have all had sort of part seasons. I mean, Frère here had an accident back in February and has only had 12 days of racing until the World Championship happened for him, and Ullrich also had an accident in the Tour of Germany. Van den Broeke had a midway hiatus with his doping problems with Cofidis, and it seems that you can't ride a full season anymore. This is now the descent, and it looks as though they're very cautious coming down. This is the thing about the descents here in northern Italy: they're very twisty and they're extremely narrow. And in fact, look at that. But in fact, we've seen the crash there at Barbaro. He really did take a nasty tumble. Let's look at that again.
As he comes into the corner there, you see he's just starting to lean down a little bit. The front wheel goes from underneath his machine, and he comes down with a pretty hard crash. That is the difficult thing about the Tour of Lombardy, because we're in very small mountain roads, and as you come down a descent, even on this descent we're on now at the moment, you can see in fact that the road is partially wet and partially dry, and that's what causes the major problems.
Well, we're looking here at Manzolini at the front of this group here from Seiko. This is on the way down. Not far behind. This is now developing into a little chase group here, approaching the same bend as where Barbaro just crashed. Barbaro has lost his position at the front because of it. Plenty of telecom riders down there, but in this main field of some 30 riders or so here, it's a one-on-one battle between two teams, Paul, as well, and it's probably going to help the battle between Schmil and Bogert, because Mappe are locked in a one-on-one battle with Rabobank, and either one could carry off the World Cup Team Award.
It's making it very complicated for the last World Cup race of the year, because everybody's got a reason to ride at the front. Rabobank really do have the major pressure on themselves, though.
So that was the situation. We're now picking up the action here. The riders are still on the descent, Paul, taking a very cautious way down, but this is now an attack by the local man who lived and trained on these roads, Celestino, and what a great season this man is having. Winner of a World Cup Classic this year in Germany, almost clipping those road signboards on the way down. He's trying to get away, and I think his lead, with some 42 kilometers to go to the finish, is about 30 seconds.
A very brave move by Celestino, but the Polti team having a pretty good end of the season as well. This young man really did come to form later in the year after the Tour de France, when he won the Hugh Classic, and he is at the moment trying to build up a massive lead. It is hovering around about the 30-second mark, and there are several groups trying to get across to him. Pascal Richard is one of the guys trying to get across, and this man, Phil, I have to say, is a remarkable performer. He's the reigning Olympic champion, and in fact he's managed to have himself a jersey designed with the Olympic rings on. He's not, I think, in the greatest form of his life, but certainly he's a rider who can always come up with a good performance.
He's a very surprising rider indeed, and he's out of a team sponsor at the end of this year, so maybe that's why he's on the attack today. He's had a 1-2-3 over the years in this Tour of Lombardy, so he knows all about the podium positions, and it looks as though he's trying to draw other people out to play at the moment, and the attacks are starting to come again. Mappe now beginning to move forward.
At the front of that bunch, though, you can see an awful lot of orange jerseys. That's all the troop of Michael Bogert trying to protect the man. He has to finish first or second in this race if he's going to win the World Cup and take it away from Andre Schmeel. But Schmeel will do the best that he can to stay as close in contact as possible with the man who is his closest challenger.
Well, I think everywhere Mapei go today, they're going to find themselves followed by a Rabobank rider, and who knows, they might take advantage of this. 30 kilometers to go now, and this is still Celestino on the front, and he'll be cheered all the way here because he's known by just about everybody at Bergamo. He trains on the roads here. Let's not forget either, Paul, this is the headquarters of the Polti sponsorship too.
It's also an area where a lot of the Italian cyclists live. But you can see all the motorbikes are being moved out of the way. That must mean that the group that has been forming behind may soon be coming across to this lone leader.
Well, let's have a look who we've got here, because this is Daniel De Luca sitting at the front here. And I think Pascal Richard must have been swept up there and might well be in that group. The Seiko rider certainly Eddie Manzolini, and we'll see who comes up.
Well, that's a good move here. This is a very difficult part of the course, and still 30 kilometers left to go to the finish. It is a long way to the finish line here in the Tour of Lombardy, I have to say, because there is no flat land now between here and the finish in Bergamo. It's all up and down, all undulating like this, and on small roads. Oscar Camazin is the other rider who's got into that group, so 4 riders chasing, but the main field, Phil, are still not very far behind.
It's real touch and go, but anybody still in contention has had to work for it today. This has been a very, very fast race indeed. Conditions have been pretty good for the time of the year here in northern Italy, and the riders have really cracked under the effort today. There's only about 30 riders left in serious contention. There's Manzolini, another one of the young up-and-comers from Seiko, and they picked up Celestino now, so Americo back in the pack. He's done very well this year with 2 good wins. He won the Coppa Placchi in September as well, which is a nice warm-up race for the last few races of October. And this group getting itself organised now.
Good move by Pascal Richard. He launched the attack at the time when he felt certain that their break was going to go off the front, and he did get picked up by the counter-attack, and what's happened is he's managed to get himself now into the leading group of 5 riders. The main field is still only 20 seconds behind at the moment, and a lot of riders trying to get clear.
So let's have a look at who we've got then. Eddie Mazzolini from Seiko is here. Oscar Camazin, and looking good now to possibly defend the title he won last year for Switzerland. This is one of those races, Paul, where the Italians haven't had much luck this last decade. They've only won it twice.
It's a difficult race to get really up for at the end of the season. That looks like Dmitry Konishev there at the front of the main field, and Jan Ullrich also very, very present at the front of the bunch there.
Well, Ullrich is the man on form, and there is the leader of the World Cup, and looking good at the moment, because everywhere Michael Bogert has gone, Andre Schmeel has followed. Schmeel quite happy to sacrifice any hope of a victory here, because the closer he moves to the win, and he takes Bogert with him, the closer he moves to losing his grip on the World Cup. So he will just be relieved if a group stays away all day.
You see that Pascal Richard in the white Olympic banded jersey there, sitting at the back. He's a very dangerous rider when he gets into a breakaway situation like this, because you'll see he'll let the younger riders in the group here do a lot of the work, making sure that this breakaway stays clear. The main field still hasn't given up, though, because they're still hovering around about that 30-second mark. But if it comes down to a sprint, one man you really must take care of is the man there wearing number 131, Pascal Richard, because he always seems to come up with the right tactics towards the end of a race like this.
This man has had so many great performances, and when you're least expecting it, nobody dreamt he would land the first Olympic Open Road Race Championship in Atlanta, yet up he popped and took that. We've seen him snatch great stage wins in the Tour de France, all against the odds. He reads a race so well and somehow seems to be able to land the wins when you don't feel he's showing top form. He's had a pretty rough time since he won the Olympic Championship, but he's still trying to hold his place in the pro peloton right now.
But he rode a good Tour of Lombardy last year, because in fact he finished 5th in the Tour of Lombardy last year. So he is a man who gets psyched up for specific rendezvous throughout the season, and he always manages to build himself up for one big day throughout a year. And that's what he did in 1996, when he had a fantastic season, not only winning Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but going on to take that first Olympic title you were talking about.
Such a long time since I remember watching him win the World Cyclo-Cross Championship back in 1988, when he was sponsored by Weinmann, the brake company, making its first steps into sports sponsorship. And they got off to a great start with Pascal at the time, because right out at the start of their new season they had a world champion on the team. he's a most interesting character. Here's what's left of the Tour of Lombardy, and just living in hope that they might see the front again. They're not that far behind actually, but these days I think 45 seconds on these roads could be seen as a long way.
A great performance here by Andre Schmil, because normally by this time of the season Schmil is not really competitive anymore. He really axes his whole season on the early season classics, the Paris-Roubaix and the Tour of Flanders. So to see him riding in this group of 30 riders, chasing the leading group of 5 at the moment, just goes to show that he's really dosed out his season this year, and he's managed to keep himself on form. And he really, I think, if he can just keep in contact with Michael Bogert, he's going to get himself that first win in the World Cup, a title that he's been so very close to over the last couple of years. But it looks as if these 5 guys at the front are in danger now, because the last time check we got there was 22 seconds back to the next group.
Yeah, it's not much at all, and they've still got a few undulations to go as well as we head through here, some 28 kilometers from the finish. And remember that Schmil, Ulrich, Bogart are driving that race behind. I would think less so Schmil, but also the battle between the Rabos and the Mappe boys is at its height now. This is the final round of the World Cup, an event which has seen Schmil take out the Milan-San Remo at the start of the year to get an early lead. He conceded the lead, he's got it back now, and the only man that can touch him with the non-starting of Frank van der Broek today is Michael Bogert, so he's going to try and shut him out, I think.
You can see on the front there again the Mercatoni Uno rider is Dmitry Konishev, trying to get clear, taking a few risks on this descent to try and split up the group, hoping that somebody's going to just leave the gap as they go around the corner. And in fact you can see he is starting to splinter 3 or 4 riders off the front of the group there.
Well, this is their last chance, I think, to get across to these leaders, because these leaders aren't going to wait for them. They're working very well together. Remember, Oscar Kamazin knows the roads. He put his attack in towards the end last year and got away to a victory. A man that had won virtually nothing suddenly pops up with the World Championship and the Tour of Lombardy in a matter of days, and all of a sudden his career had turned around. Same could be said this year for Oscar Freire, but right now Oscar is out of it. He's made his move, he's been seen in front of the television cameras for half the day, but he's now dropped back and through the field as far as we know.
20 seconds now back to that leading group, which is the next group, which is in fact being led down the descent by Dmitry Konishev, taking an awful lot of risks. But you can see Pascal Richard on the back of this group of 5 riders here. He's letting everybody else do the pacemaking. He's obviously not really in super condition at the moment, but he's using his brain. He's just letting the other guys set the pace. He's doing enough to keep on the back of the leading group of 5 and just hoping that they can stay clear to the finish, because then he'll be able to unleash a pretty good sprint. And it is a very difficult sprint at the end of Tour of Lombardy as well, because now there's a little corner with around about 250-300 meters to go, and if you can get round the front there in first or second position, you've got an ideal chance at winning the race.
Just wondering why Americo Celestino is hanging on the back there. Whether he's planning another little move or whether he's beginning to suffer. If you remember, if you managed to see the Hamburg World Cup event, the Hughes Cup, Celestino really caught them napping on the run-in. They all watched one another. He jumped away, and there he was, the winner of the World Cup. And now, like all of these surprise winners, they get that little confidence booster, and he's now part very much of the action. And now here's the battle behind him. Is Sorensen involved as well? This is the Mappe versus the Rabobank. It looks as though they're trying to get Bogert backed up to the front here.
Well, they realise now Bogert has to win this event or finish second if he's going to win the World Cup this year. That's why Rolf Sorensen has come to the front now to put the hammer down. The group of 5 riders, they can almost see them in the big long straights, and Sorensen, a very canny rider, using every opportunity he can to try and get close up behind the TV motorbike there, just to get a little bit more of a slipstream as the motorbike tries to accelerate to keep out of his way. But this is real speed at the moment. We're touching 60 kilometers an hour on this road here, and you can see the urgency coming into the pedaling action of Rolf Sorensen. In fact, the power has dragged him off the front of that group of 24 riders.
Absolutely superb riding by the aging Rolf. He's a man that's known the great victories in big races like Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Perhaps one of his saddest memories was crashing out of the Tour de France and wearing the yellow jersey. But now you see he's acting as a super domestique here, and he is driving on. And also the Mercatoni Uno boys are also contributing to this pace too.
putting a lot of pressure on at the front, which is a little bit strange because they've got a man in the leading group, so I'm not quite sure why they would be doing that. But Sorensen, you can see, certainly believes he's got a chance of getting off the front. He's gritting his teeth there, but in fact there is a reaction from the group and more riders starting to get up, and this is causing a serious split in that group of chasing riders, which the last count we had was made up of 24 riders. Sorensen has decided this is the moment to go for it. I've got to pull that leading group back of 5, and I can only hope that Michael Bogart is following me. You see, he keeps looking over his shoulder there to see the position of Michael Bogart in this group.
Well, as far as we know, he's in there, but there's the gap we can see now from the helicopter, and we've got something like 8 or 9 riders here trying to get clear, being driven on, and in that group is Andre Schmill as well, Paul, so it looks as though the big 2 are clear.
Well, Andre Schmill has got himself in there. I thought I caught a glimpse there of Michael Bogart as well. Those 2 riders riding very close together in this event, but there are still an awful lot of orange jerseys there, and we're only around about 15 seconds between this group and the leading group of 5, so it may all come back together. This looks like Jan Ullrich now putting in the big power attack. A great end of the season to him with that victory in the Tour of Spain, a World Championship title in the individual time trial coming after his win in 1993 in the amateur event. So he too is looking to get himself a big classic victory.
Well, the fat boy is now back in the big time and looking just like he did a couple of years ago. He sits on that bike and he just powers those big legs, and there's very few can hold on with him. He's caused the reaction though, and just by that turn of speed he shut down that attack by Rolf Sorensen, and somebody now has tried to get away off the front here. And it looks to me as though we've got the Mappe boys. This is one-on-one now, Paul. Mappe versus Rabobank.
Looks like Daniel Nardello trying to get across there. He putting the pressure on. It is a big, important battle for Rabobank and Mappe to be the winner of the team prize. This is Michael Bogart there, putting his arm up, trying to get some help from his teammates, trying to get everybody to the front. He wants to try and win this event or finished at least second, and that way he would rob the victory away from Andre Schmill, the man who's led this competition for an awful long time.
There's the breakaway being charged forward by Eddie Mazzolini for Seiko. Good colours those for a television commentator, aren't they? Bright red, we can't miss them. And looks as though Konishev here at the front of this little chase group, and it's just 18 seconds, so they're far from safe.
Very far from safe. There's big major pressure on the front of that group. They're trying to pull themselves back to the leading group in 5. As they come round this corner, they will certainly be able to see the neutral service car behind them, because the leading group of 5 have only got 1 car behind them now. All the motorbikes have been cleared out, and there's the chasing group coming around the corner. Very prominent at the front in the orange and white of the Rabobank team there is Rolf Sorensen, looking for his teammate, and they have caused a split here, and in fact a great move by Andre Schmill, who's managed to get himself into that front split.
Well, it looks to me to be about 9 riders. It's been caused in the end by Dmitry Konishev, the rider who I think is retiring this year, but he's hinting he may not do so now. Concentrating on a good ride in the World Championships. He was in at the kill, but he wasn't able to produce the finish required to take the world title. But he did have a good World Championships, and that came on the back of a very good and solid Tour de France where he won a stage as well. A unique rider, Dmitry Konishev, first Soviet man ever to lead the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France and to get a medal at World Championship professional level. So he's had a terrific career, and of course owes Italy for his wife as well.
An interesting move here now, because always at the front of this group there's big accelerations coming from Rolf Sorensen, trying to pull back that leading group of 5 riders. They're now really surviving if they can, hoping they can hold on to the last few seconds that they've managed to build up. They've never had more than 45 seconds advantage over this chasing group, and you can just see them there, led here by De Luca, the winner of the Hughes Classic in Germany this year in Hamburg. Eddie Mazzolini in the red and white for Seiko. Oscar Kamendzin going through there. Mirko Celestino and Pascal Richard.
Richard, just his round shoulders over the front of that bike, but he's up against some good youngsters now. De Luca won the Baby Giro in his last year as an amateur. He's now a first year as a pro and beginning to look extremely good as well, settling in nicely. Some good youngsters coming through now. Mazzolini not quite as young as De Luca, he's now some 26 years of age, but even so, chance to get a good performance on the board here. He needs one this year, actually. He hasn't got any wins at all.
And Oscar Camazin too, as the defending champion of the Tour of Lombardy. You can see the fact that he's wearing #1 as last year's winner of this event, and he's a very canny rider when it comes down to the final day, the final few kilometers of a classic like this. These little lumps on the run into Bergamo are very heavy on the legs after a race at this time of the season of 262 kilometers, and it feels as if these small inclines turning into great big mountains.
Very typical scene in autumn as we look around. They used to call this the race of the falling leaves, or the Tour of Autumn. Either is quite applicable at this time of the year. Carrying #1 there, last year's winner, putting up a #1 display as well in this group, because this has not been an easy breakaway. There they are, right up there now behind him. I think that's Paolo Bettini, Paul, who's trying to get across the gap, but they're all there, and they're right on them, snapping at the heels. What a great finale this is turning out to be.
Very close. It's all coming down to the last few kilometers. Watch out for Jan Ullrich though, because you can see the way he's pedaling there, Phil. He's got serious power at the end of this season after a great Tour of Spain, a very good.
Now he's underway, and here's the man that prevents him from that great moment, Miguel Indurain. Last to go, and #1 on his bike frame as the winner of the Tour of Italy, the first ever Spanish winner, and indeed of course the only Spanish winner of the Tour of Italy last year. Now time to defend his championship. He's on the road as Chiappucci comes to the finish. Let's have a look what sort of time we can expect now from Chiappucci. The time to beat is a good one. Eddie Seigneur of France, the new French professional, has done 10:43.1, reliving his great team time trialing days as an amateur, and Chiappucci is on a good time for him. Second best time, 10:49.2, just 6 seconds slower than Seigneur. And now we're looking at Maurizio Fondries making his start, who's having a tremendous season, without doubt his finest season since he turned professional in 1987, and then went on to controversially win the World Championship when Steve Bauer and Claudio Caquillon fought it out quite literally just yards from the finish. And this is a very, very good time indeed. He's leading at the Czechs, and you can believe this is ahead of Miguel Indurain, Maurizio Fondries. He's had such a wonderful start to the year. He won Tirreno Adriatico, he won a stage of the Ruta del Sol, Milan San Remo was his, the Flèche Wallonne was his, and look at Indurain now as he comes to the finish. Indurain challenging now Seigneur's time of 10:43. He's going to beat that. That's to be expected, I think. Miguel Indurain has proved himself to be virtually unbeaten in the time trials, and he's holding that right now. 2.6 seconds better than Eddie Seigneur. And now Fondries, they're saying he is quicker at the checkpoints, and this will really be a surprise if he comes home with the best time. As Maurizio is heading for the line, he's a completely changed man this year. Gianni Bugno, the world champion, out on the road. And meanwhile, at the start house, the leader this morning, after the stage victory, Moreno Argentin, waiting for the start. His right is the Maglia Rosa. And Argentine is underway. Not the best of time trials. He might be inspired today, though. Now he's the race leader for the first time ever in the Tour of Italy. Here's Fondries further along the road, still looking very, very smooth indeed and full of fight. He's never, in fact, won a time trial since he turned professional 5-6 years ago now. But he's going to run, he's going to win, he's going to beat this time. Indurain is going to be bettered, and look at that, 2.1 seconds better over 9 kilometres. That really is a turn up for the book. Fondries now is top of the leaderboard. Bugno, who is a good time trialist, but he rarely beats Miguel Indurain. He's not going to do it again this time. He's a little bit down the pan, but Argentin, fourth time of Bugno, is now fifth of Chiappucci. So Argentin has done a good ride for him. 10 seconds slower than the leader, and this is Greg LeMond coming home. But LeMond is going to be maybe top 20 here. He's a little bit down off the pace. He's not finding the sort of form that has taken him to the top in these short bursts in the Tour de France over years gone by. He's still struggling to find the finesse that he once had. Difficult days for Greg LeMond. Outside, 28 seconds off the pace for him. And Andy Hampsten also. If only he could time trial, he would win these stage races so much more easily, or at least stay among the leaders. He's not a good time trialist, and Hampsten again is not finding the time trial to his liking. Dropping right out here. He's going to be into the 70s by the time he gets to the line, as Andy Hampsten finishes 72nd. But the surprise of the day, no doubt about it, Maurizio Fondries gets his first time trial win as a professional and beats Miguel Indurain. Stephen Roach, 25th in the time trial. But is it his last race?
Well, you know, it's now 13 years on the road, so it's not getting any easier. And like I've always, the last couple of years, I've had a lot of trouble with my knee, my back, and everything like that. It's taken a lot of stick out of my morally. It's taken that out of me. So now I'd like to just kind of have a good season this year, finishing well up in the Giro and the Tour, and then call it a day.
The day Roach retires will be a sad day for world cycling. He's been great. Moreno Argentin, though, is now the leader of the Giro d'Italia for the first time in his 13-year career, as the riders all say goodbye now to the island of Elba. Now here's a Napoleonism for you. Able was I, ere I saw Elba. If you say it backwards, it'll say the same thing. It's a palindrome. And so on to the second stage of 229 kilometres from Grosseto to Rieti. Just a small climb, the Castelfranco climb near the end, bringing the riders up to over 600 metres. It should be the sort of finish for the sprinters, although they might find at the climb at the end a little bit of a problem. Miguel Indurain has made a perfect start, just lying off the lead there in third place. He must be a little bit surprised, though, at having been beaten in the time trial. And this is an attack by Michele Capolino, who comes from the Navigare team. 37 kilometres from the finish. Well, the Italians will all take their chances here. They grossly outnumber the foreign entry, as they always do. Race in excess of 3,700 kilometres. Moreno Argentin looking a little bit concerned here and talking to his Mecchia team, and now wants a little bit more action out. I think he doesn't want to lose that jersey. He sees himself holding it for the first 2 weeks of this race if he can. Although he's got one long time trial to come, which might well see it swing towards Indurain. But this is a big moment now for Moreno, proving to the Tifosi that he's really back in a big way. At 32 years of age, he's been a pro for 13 seasons. A long time to stay professional. There's Capolino. But he's not going to work. As we head on to the Castelfranco climb, the old legs have given out, and it's back into the complete field here. And it is now Argentine's team who's got control of the head of the race. Well, when you have the leader on your squad, you've got to do most of the work. The rainbow jersey of world champion worn by Gianni Bugno down there, and just sitting behind him is Prudencia Indurain, not Miguel, because brother Prudencia is riding. And now an attack by Claudio Chiappucci. Well, this is the gadfly of world cycling. He attacks whenever he senses a drop in the pace, but Bugno is right on him here. And it's Indurain as well who's got him. So the big three over previous tours are now at the head of the race. And Luc Leblanc, the champion of France, was also there. This is now Franco Coccioli, who has won the Tour of Italy before. And now trying a lone attack. This constant attacking quite often can develop a breakaway. As they head up towards the Castelfranco climb. And this is one of the small teams, the Mappe riders, coming up, and it looks as though it might well be Della Santa who's caught him up. Stefano Della Santa, I think it was, who's latched on to the back. So we've got two riders in front, but the whole line is after them now. As they go over the top of the climb, they're on the way down. It's all downhill towards the finish. And now we're getting up to some reasonable speed here as they chase down towards the line at Rieti. And this is Bruno Kengialta in the lead. And look at this, Miguel Indurain has gone for him. Now that is unusual. Indurain really won't be thinking of Kengialta as a dangerous rival for a prospective win in the Giro d'Italia. Kengialta's stage win indeed in the Tour de France in the past. But this looks as though it's a show of defiance by Indurain. He wants to remind the rest that he is not just going to sit back and wait for the time trials. He's gone again. Smarting perhaps at losing to Fondriest in that short time trial yesterday. And now just 4 kilometres to go to the line. And inside 3 kilometres to go now. And they've swept them up indeed. So they wouldn't allow Indurain to go away like that. Indurain, too much of a strong man in the time trials. To gain time in the road races would really be the end for the rest of the ride. It's going to be a sprint finish now. It's taken a little while to bring them all together, but they've come together now. And after 5 hours and 52 minutes, it looks like it's going to be a battle of the sprinters now. Little Adriano Baffi is coming through, and on the line it's going to be Baffi. Baffi takes it on the inside. Marco Saligari was second. It looked at Dmitry Konishev was third. Overall, though, Argentin had the day he wanted. Retains his 36-second advantage over Fondriest, 38 over Indurain. Saligari, who scored second place there, up to fourth. So we go on, 157 kilometres today for the third stage, which takes them down to Rieti de Scano. And Maurizio Fondriest, having made a wonderful start. Not so, of course, for Gianni Bugno, but he doesn't look too unhappy, does he? The man who won the race back in 1990. And the man that won it last year, first Spanish rider ever, Miguel Indurain, looking a little bit pensive, but happy with the way the race has gone so far. These are the early days, of course. And two great friends back on the team when Roach won the Tour of Italy in 1987. Claudio Chiappucci, now the star of the team. And the riders now facing up to the 151 kilometres to Scano. Again, it's hot and humid weather conditions here. And this is Mario Chiesa, who started the attack at the front. And Fabio Roscioli, who's never won a race as a professional, by the way. But it doesn't stop him trying. He's a very strong domestique, a team rider, and Carrera have got both riders clear, which is rather unusual, but they really are a strong team. And the race now, 32 kilometres on the finish here, just passed through the village of Sulmona. And the Mechia riders are now marking. That's Luc Leblanc, who's come on to the back as well. Ugramov is the Mechia rider who's come up here. The gap is 30 seconds. And the Kelme rider who latched on in the green shorts there is Herman Buenajara. It's Buenajara who's setting the pace into the tunnel. Let's hope they come out the other side. Stunning scenery. The Tour of Italy now makes its way toward the finish in Scano. This little group, 4 riders. Luc Leblanc stands out well, number 3 in line in the tricolour jersey as champion of France. He'll be defending that title in a couple of weeks. And surprisingly, it is the Banesto riders here who are having to take up the chase. Now, you would normally expect to see Argentine with his men at the front, but he's got a man in that breakaway in Peter Ugramov, a rider who climbs very well, by the way. There he is sitting at the back, number 132, 10 kilometres to go to the finish. And Ugramov is the sort of rider, you know, could spring the surprise. And Argentina is now forcing Indurain's team to chase. Luc Leblanc is up here as well. And the other rider here, by the way, is Carlos Hernandez, former champion of Spain, a couple of years back now. And that's the sort of gap they've got. 2 riders who were dropped from that lead group. In fact, they're coming up. That is Stephen Roach there, who's coming up, and he's bringing along one of the riders from the San Roman, I think it is, from the Indurain's team, Francisco San Roman. So those 2 are chasing, and the gap is 25 seconds. And Maglia Rosa group to the leading group is 25 seconds. That's Argentine's bunch, with Roach and San Roman in between. And if we look up to the top of the field there, they're not too far behind. These 2 are coming back. So we're heading up toward Villa Largo now. And this, we're looking at Roach sitting at the back doing no work at all, and along for the ride here, San Roman. 7.4 kilometres to go. It's a long, steady climb, this. It's a sort of climb that Stephen Roach likes as they come up towards the leaders, and they've got them. Roach is immediately going through to the front to see what sort of reaction he gets. Well, Ugramov is going with him. Ugramov now trying to profit from this attack as the main field begins to fragment on the climb, especially at the back there. A lot of steady tempo riding being done. They're trying to limit the losses of that breakaway group, and it's a long, long climb. Passing around the edge of Scano Lake. And this little group is swelling at the front. Cocchioli has got across here now. And I think Enrico Zainer is here from the Mercatoni team. That's him coming up on the outside. Roberto Conti from Ariosti is up here. Valerio Tebaldi, who's pulled out a couple of good stage wins in the Tour de France in years gone by, usually on his own. but the whole field is closing down. So the steady tempo riding, largely done by Indurain's Benesto team, has closed this. Riders have tried to sprint off the front and escaped across the top and maybe snatched the stage win. This is Franco Coccioli at the front. But he's in second place now. He's slipped back one. And ride number 53 is Roberto Conti, a very good climber. We'll be looking forward to our trip through the Dolomites. And Luc Leblanc very prominent here all day today. Number 66 is Carlos Hernandez, sitting at the back, and we're lining up for the finish here. I don't think they're going to catch them now. Wouldn't it be great if Roche could pull it off, but Ugrimov has got the lead. Ugrimov has got the lead. He's the man that's been the surprise member of the breakaway, and the Mechia team have worked well to keep him up there, and he's going to do it. So that's a great win for Peter Ugrimov and a bonus for Argentine's Mechia team, because Ugrimov is now up into second place overall, 26 seconds behind his teammate. So the Mechia team have got the top 2 slots overall. 179 kilometres at stage number 4 from Scano to Marquinizda. All downhill away from the Apennines, although the riders may not agree with it. And the big field today early on has caused quite a few problems. Among the fallers, Greg LeMond, who's crashed twice, Stephen Roach, who's crashed, and indeed the GAN team having an unhappy day, because Eddie Seigneur and Laurent Bezo have also gone down for the GAN team. They've had a long day today chasing at the back. This is an attack here by Eduardo Chozas we're looking at. The main field, although they know Chozas is a great lone expert and has won stages with his lone attacks, he's not going to challenge for the overall lead at the moment. And the Artitach team manager here having a word with Eduardo. Still 35 kilometres to go to the finish. Chozas out in front. He's been out there now for some 45 kilometres today. And the tempo nice and steady, 29 kilometres left to go. The last king of the mountains as they descend now towards the finish. Not too far above sea level. And there he is on the right, and they've wiped him up. 50 kilometres he's out in front. And now the field again has come together, and the sprinters are going to try and have their day. 25 kilometres to go to the finish. And it looks like an attack there from Gianni Bugno. Well, this is a cheeky move by the world champion. Winner of the Giro d'Italia back in 1990, and that's when he shot to become world number 1. He led from start to finish. And those were the great days for him, but now he doesn't have that confidence this year. He doesn't seem to get things quite straight, mentally more than physically. And again, he's seen the field react, and he's come back into the group. Jojo Ferlin has gone off the front now, former teammate of Bugno and a classic winner in Belgium. The Ariostia team, I think they've lost the leader in Argentine this year, but they're still attacking him almost as if by a vengeance. But the field have got Ferlin in the sights. They're holding him right there. Just about 6 kilometres to go now as the riders line up for the finish. There's Ferlin back in the pack on the right. And this has brought the Mercatoni Uno riders back into play now for Adriano Baffi, the sprinter, who's having a good tour so far. And now they've got their men right on the front here. But they'll have to watch out because they've got the Gatorade boys up there as well. And look at that man on the right, that's Indurain, who was right up there. Took a look over his shoulder. He's peeled away to stay out of the battle of the sprinters as they take themselves on now head to head. And it's Fabriano Baldato here in the centre and Manzoni of Gatorade. And it looks as though Baffi is out of this one because right on the line Baldato gets it. Mario Manzoni is second. Leone was third. Baffi in fact only finishing 5th. Overall no change, and Ugrimov stays in second place. Fondriest, Indurain, Sagliari in that order. 212 kilometres now, the 5th stage from Paestum to Termi Luigiani. And this is a town famous for its Greek colonies of years gone by. Magnificent temples that were built more than 2,500 years ago. They were in fact overgrown and forgotten for 1,000 years until the King of Naples decided to build a road across the plain. And this is a sight of pure courage from this man here who rides his bike every year to the Tour of Italy to see the riders. A tremendous achievement. The riders back on the road. It was a quiet start to the day, but they're beginning to step up the pace a little bit now. Heading up towards the only climb of the day of note. It's coming just before the 12-kilometre point. It's Trero. And there's still been a little bit of action, but the attacks all day have been caught. Bjorn Rees has been in the action all day, had a breakaway early on, so too did Aldag of the Telecom team, and Andy Hampson was in an early move, but he's been swept up as well. And now at 7 kilometers to go, it looks like we're starting an attack. Dmitry Konishev, who's trying to go clear. N2 has also been testing the water today. Finally got away from the TVM team, which he was very unhappy riding with. He didn't seem to get on with the manager of that team, Case Priem, but now he rides for the Jolly team. You may remember him for winning the last stage in the Tour de France, the year that Jamaluddin Abdul-Japarov went down with such a collision on the barriers 2 years ago. The man that snatched the honours, rather surprised he was to be. That was his second stage in that year too, in the Tour de France. And now on this very, very technical descent, he's holding on. It looks as Stefano Della Santa has come up then, and Flavio Gipponi. 3 riders now racing down to Vigiani. I'll tell you, Konishev will take some beating. He did just 3 over a minute for the sprint. The main field aren't very far off the back wheels either. They're very, very close indeed. It looks as though Adriano Bacca is going to be robbed of a possible sprint win. So too Baldato, because these 3 are still clear. Dmitry Konishev, who really has been the man to spearhead the Russian appearances at the professional level of world cycling. You may remember when Greg LeMond won the world title in Chambéry, Konishev was up there too. 2 kilometers to go. And it's Konishev who made the breakaway and seems to be left to be doing most of the work. Flavio Gipponi, who is the Mercatoni Uno rider at the back of that line. Della Santa, Mapai team, is the other rider. And look at this, they're right on them now, and they're gambling. Konishev has got himself into 2nd place, which is where he wants to be. Stefano Della Santa is leading up towards the lines. It's a very slight incline this, but the field are coming down very, very quickly behind them. Very, very quickly indeed, but Konishev has gone. Della Santa almost sat up but thought it's worth going again. He gets 2nd, but Konishev gets the victory. Della Santa is 2nd, Gipponi is 3rd, and almost a collision there on the line. And that was the fast-finishing Maurizio Fondriest, but it wasn't fast enough to beat Dmitry Konishev. The effort showing on his face, and he gets the stage victory in the Giro d'Italia. There's no doubt who the happy man is so far, though. Moreno Argentin is keeping his lead, everything working out just fine for him. Konishev winning the stage by 2 seconds. Gipponi was 3rd, Fondriest it was 4th, Luc Leblanc 5th. Giorgio Furlan, who attacked, he finished in 5th place. Still that 26 seconds margin to Ugrumov, 35 seconds to Fondriest for Moreno Argentin. So to the 6th stage, 130 kilometres. The riders now from Villafranca Terina to Messina. We're heading now down towards the bottom end of the boot of Italy before we nip across onto the Isles of Sicily. This is a very, very beautiful place, as is all of the places down in the far south of Italy, as we go into now the Sicilian influence of the country. And of the 180 riders who set off from Porto Azzurro at the start of the Giro, 171 are still surviving here on the stage to bring them to Messina. 3 days they're facing now on the beautiful island of Sicily. And to get between the towns, well, if you're a member of the Festina team registered in Andorra, the one of the smallest principalities in Europe, then you really can travel in style. This is the biggest team this year because Andorra, being so small, have had to take on many amateur riders so they could invite the top foreign riders onto the squad because of international rulings. Their best man is the Dutchman, Steven Rooks, the first man to win the King of the Mountains title in the Tour de France for Holland. And other riders like Eric van Lanker, sitting down there, who's from Belgium. And the leader of the team here, by the way, is Jos van Aert. And so the team here more or less for training for the upcoming Tour de France, and have yet to distinguish themselves in this year's Giro. Maybe they're enjoying the comfort a little bit too much. 130 kilometres on the menu, the small town of Villafranca Terina, as they race across to Messina as the crow flies. They're very close together, but not the way the riders are going today. And the conditions are extremely hot in the far south here. Temperatures expected to soar over 100 degrees, and it won't be to the liking of a lot of the riders. And this is Zenon Jaskula from Poland. 4th year now as a professional, turned professional rather late because the Until recent years, of course, the Eastern Bloc nations weren't allowed to turn professional. Luc Leblanc out on the attacks again. 18 seconds the gap. Not surprisingly, Mercatoni Uno are trying to keep this race together. That's Leali in the front there, Bruno Leali. And it looks as though they have an interest in bringing Zenon Jaskula back into the field here. The other rider with Jaskula, I think, is Tonkov, but he's back in the field as well. As the Mercatoni Uno riders sweep by. Reputations mean nothing here. The big professional teams know what their aims are in the Giro, and their aim is to get Baffy up there for the stage win into the last kilometre. Now let's see if they can, but this is the big figure to Guido Bontempi here, who once picked up 5 stage wins straight in the Tour of Italy in 1986, and he's going to hold it. Bontempi, despite his 33 years of age, gets it on the line, and Baffy was pipped there. Let's have a look at that again. That's Baffy coming on the shoulder there of Guido Bontempi, but Bontempi made it by half a length. And he gets the victory over Baffy. Bugno getting third, Girotto fourth, Konichev in the hunt again in 5th place this time. Overall, the first day out on the island, no changes. Argentina winning, rather leading by 26 seconds from Ugrimov, Fondriest in 3rd place. Second day on the island and the 7th stage of the race, 242 kilometres. Couple of climbs taking the riders up to just under 1,000 metres. And if you enjoy fish, well, there's no finer place to come than to Sicily. And this swordfish here is just about to lose his head. The history of this fascinating island, when it stretches back 2,800 years, settled originally by the Greeks, but it's known plenty of rulers since then. The Normans, the Germans, the French, the Spanish, and the Neapolitans, they've all had their share, but it's a stunning place. The sunset in the Valley of the Temples probably is one of the most magical places in the world. Feel the history seeping out, and thank heavens Italy protects all of its temples, and there are plenty of them. Great reminders of the past. They've overseen many things, of course, and it's one of the most famous stopping off points for the Giro d'Italia, a race which goes back to the turn of the century and has been won largely by Italian riders. In fact, only 13 non-Italians, by the way, have won the Giro d'Italia. Indurain trying to alter that again this time out. Won it for the first time for Spain last year. Garibaldi began his drive to unite a modern Italy here, by the way, in 1860. And Mount Etna, not too far away, is Europe's highest active volcano. Let's hope it chooses to stay quiet for the next couple of days. So the riders now facing up the ride from Capodolando to Agrigento. And Greg LeMond riding a very, very quiet tour at the moment, but he's only 34 minutes. I know it sounds a lot, but 34 minutes off the lead, but it's a lot of time to have lost on what have been so far comparatively easy stages. The sprinters fighting out the finishes, and the man in the lead is Moreno Argentin. But right now we've got 2 riders out in front. This is the champion of Denmark, Bjarne Riis, up here at the front. And the rider who's come along with him for more than the ride is Coppolino. The rider's on the attack earlier on. Micheli, and Perini is up here as well. Well, Perini had a marvellous Tour de France last year, and he hopes he'll get in this year. It depends on a good ride, really, in the Tour of Italy for his team, because they'll be on a wildcard selection, and he'll be conscious of that. Rider grabbing a drink here, as all of the riders are, is Da Silva, once leader of the Tour de France in Luxembourg. That was the year that we had the great problem with the man who forgot to go to the start house in time, Pedro Delgado, in the time trial at Luxembourg. There's Perini rather. And it seems to be a case of just give us a drink today, because temperature's up to 105 degrees. It is dry, it is very, very hot, and a lot of the riders simply can't race at the back of the field. They're just following along in a big bunch. And this is a very active little breakaway, taking advantage of it. Coppolino is in trouble here, and they probably welcome that water, because Bjarne Riis has launched a great attack at the front. I think he's got rid of Perini. Here's the main field. 4 minutes 25 seconds. None of these riders really affecting at the moment the overall situation of the race. A very arid countryside. Regrouped. They've answered the attack of Bjarne Riis on the Austria team along with Argentina last year, but now Argentina's gone. It does seem that Bjorn Ries has been giving his head a little bit more to ride his own sort of races rather than be a super domestique in helping Argentina win his races. And Perini quite clearly anxious to keep this race away. He wants the ZG team in the Tour de France, and a wild card shot is still a possibility. Well, 300 metres out to go. Perini's gone early. He's not a great sprinter. And this would be Coppolilo's best ever result here. But the man to watch out for is surely Bjorn Ries, who can deliver a good blow. And Ries comes now. And he comes very, very smoothly. No trouble at all for the champion of Denmark. He gets the stage win very easily from Coppolilo. But the man who was worried about the weather, Andy Hampsten.
Yeah, it was a sticker. We were looking at the scenery a little bit, but I tell you, you just can't race 3 weeks in conditions like this. It picked up quite a bit, you know, in the middle and towards the end, but it was hard.
And so the riders overall was a win for Bjorn Ries. Coppolilo was second, Perini was third, but the main field coming in a minute 21 seconds back, and as a result, no change at all overall amongst the top 7 men. 8th stage now, 140 kilometres, Agrigento to Palermo, the last day on the island, and 1 or 2 riders now will be glad to leave this island. The sun is simply a little bit too hot.
The heat kills you though, you know. It's every day gets worse and worse, you know. Like nobody can attack in that kind of weather. Like the Sicilian people themselves don't work between 10 and 4, and we're asked to race in that weather, you know.
And here's one man who's done that in the past, one of the legends of Italian cycling, Gino Bartali. 4 times the Italian champion, 3 times the winner of the Giro, 4 times second in the Giro, and twice the winner of the Tour de France. The amazing thing was he won the national title in 1935. He won it again in 1952. And along with Fausto Coppi here, they had some great battles. So there are 3 top names in Italian cycle. The other one, of course, is Ercole Baldini. And now, of course, the names we talk about, Argentin, Bugno, Chipucci and Fondriest in this year's Giro d'Italia. This is Palermo, where the riders are now heading on the stage of 140 kilometres. And when they get here, again, the temperature is up. It's just on 100 degrees. They will then say goodbye and fly away from the island of Sicily, and I don't think they'll be too sorry. A breakaway formed today by Mario Chiesa. He's gone clear. And he's built himself a lead of 30 seconds over the group, which still contains Moreno, Argentin and the rest of the men that matter in this year's Giro d'Italia. And this looks like Stefano Collier. Indeed it is. 66th overall in the race so far, as you can see by the little pink 66 there. Stefano Collier, an underrated rider who is steadily developing well in Italian cycling, always willing to have a go. Racing now through the parched countryside here of Sicily as we head off towards Palermo. It's on the northern coastline of the island, probably the best known, before the riders leapfrog away and up to Rome, where the race will recommence tomorrow. Well, Collier has been picked up, and again it is the Mercatoni Uno team of Adriano Baffi who has brought the race right down again. But they've still got to pack up Mario Chiesa. He's a rider who's been seen in the Tour du Pont, for example, in the United States. He doesn't speak any English, but he certainly enjoys racing in America. But the dream is over. Mario Chiesa has been swept up by the field, and once again the big bunch has come together, and the Mercatoni Uno team have got control at the front. They come down towards the finish now in Palermo. And in fact, the MG boys have got themselves company at the front now. And this is going to be the sprint between Baldato and Baffi by the look at it, the way they're lining up for the finish here. And looking desperately to see where Baldato is. Both Baldato and Baffi have won a stage already. And this is going to be a great battle for the line now. As they come up towards the finish, the sprinters are now taking control. In fact, Baffi is about 5 men down in the line at the moment. He's going to have to burst out of that. He's the rider in the mauve-coloured points jersey. And now here comes Baffi. Leone is also here, and Baldato. This is going to be a very, very close finish. This is Endrio Leone who's leading it out for the line now, but there comes Baffi coming up on the outside. Baldato is with him as they come right on the line. Baffi takes it. Leone held on there for second place, and Baldato had to be content with third. So the second stage win of the race for Adriano Baffi, with Leone there in second place and all of the riders given the same time. Consequently, no change overall at all. Argentine still very much the leader of the Giro d'Italia. The riders now facing up to a plane journey which will take them just to the outskirts of Rome for the resumption of the race. And for the mechanics and all of the followers, they face a 12-hour boat journey from Palermo to Naples before they will arrive on the outskirts of Rome. Very close to here where the riders spend their only rest day of this year's Giro d'Italia. Well, you know what they say, all roads lead to Rome, and it's no exaggeration, the Romans invented the superhighways and they still exist under the layers of modern paving today. This is the famous Fountain de Trevi, where the tourists come and throw 2 coins over the shoulder, one to return to Rome and the other to make a wish. It really is a city for the romantics, and under the old Roman Empire all of these old buildings were once faced with marble. But like everything else these days, there are always in evidence around about the modern motor car, perhaps taking a little bit of the beauty away from the most visited site in Italy, the Colosseum, built in 80 AD and once held 50,000 fans for the contests of the lions and the gladiators. And the route today, the riders in fact heading across the route of stage 2 as they head away from Montelibretti to Fabriano, 219 kilometres on this 9th day. It goes in a northeasterly direction. Gianni Bugno in the World Championship jersey there, but the early attacker, Francisco Cabello from the Kelmer team, 24 years of age and 100th overall in the Giro d'Italia. Well, he got away 25 kilometres after the start this morning, and that's his lead at the moment, 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Well, you've always got to have the great adventurers in every stage race, and if you don't stick your nose out front, well, you'll never win a stage of any big race. Cabello now trying to build a lead in the bunch. Well, a little bit cooler the conditions, although the sun is still shining. Argentine there, happy in the Maglia Rosa, and keeping right up on the overall classification with his team. Not too far away, but you see it's Baffi's team all of the time who are setting the pace, but the one man who could spoil the party is here, Francisco Cabello. 33 kilometres to go and in the lead since the first 25 kilometres this morning, but he is slowing down. And the pace has picked up quite a lot now. And Gianni Bugno riding very close to the front today. He's been in the first 6 or 7 riders all of the time. He really does need to show his colours sooner or later because he's not having a great tour at all. And this is one of the small climbs on the stage today. The Dolomites coming nearer now day by day. And of course so too is the first really big individual time trial. And Argentine is very, very conscious of that, knowing the ability of Miguel Indurain. Once again, the stunning countryside here now as we head up towards the northeast corner of Italy. And the pack still together, but it's all over. It's been a long, long breakaway. We're about 13 kilometres from the finish, and that would make the breakaway there of Cabello 181 kilometres in the lead. Chiesa now going clear again. Oh, 6 kilometres, 5.8 to be precise. And in fact, Mario Chiesa, who has attacked and attacked and attacked with absolutely no reward, nothing to show for it, he's gone again. It looks as though we've got 2 Ali Ostia riders going here. One is Giorgio Furlan. I think the little rider there was David Cassani, who is a good climber. There's Chiesa, 97th overall, 27 years of age. And Giorgio Furlan chasing him down, a much higher prospect in the overall situation. Giorgio Furlan here won the Flèche Wallonne and the Tour of Switzerland last year. Finished 19th overall in the Giro, and also won himself a stage. And he's yet to do that. He's tried once and failed. He's come up alongside Mario Chiesa now. So we've got 2 riders together. And the gap not very much at all, although the kilometres to go are closing down all of the time. But once again, the whole field here looking likely now to contest the finish. Chiesa and Giorgio Furlan, well, they're absolutely at the full effort here. Little look across there from Chiesa just to see what Giorgio Furlan was looking like, but it looks as though Chiesa's still got plenty left in him, but the field are closing down very, very quickly now as we come up towards the line. There's nothing in it here. The other rider who's got onto the back there is Enrico Zaina from the Mercatoni Uno team. That's rather blunted the attack for the sprinter Baffi. He's on the same team, but Zaina's tailed off, and Giorgio Furlan is going. I don't think Chiesa will handle him. Well, he's tried and tried, Mario Chiesa, and it looks like he's going to be pipped, but second place is better than most results he's been getting. He's lost it in second place. Giorgio Furlan gets what is really his annual stage win here in the Giro d'Italia, and Zaina takes third place. So Giorgio Furlan, Ariosti, former teammate of the race leader, Marino Argentine, he gets the stage win ahead of Chiesa. Zaina, Manzoni, who's riding very well on the flat stages here, he's 4th, and Baldato is 5th. Argentino keeps his 26 seconds over Ugrimov, Fondriest 3rd, Bugno 4th, Indurain 5th, and so the riders now coming to the 10th stage, the 28 kilometres time trial, and those seconds now should open up. It's only a question of which way will it be. Well, this is the place where the holidaymakers flood with its beautiful beaches here. Plenty of water sports, and there'll be plenty of sport out on the open road today as the riders ride the race of truth. Miguel Indurain plotted his course to victory in the Giro d'Italia last year when he became the first Spanish winner by winning the time trials. He'd be very conscious of the fact that he was beaten, in fact, by Fondriest in the first one. This is Francesco Moser, world hour record holder. Moser 51.151. And Francesco Moser, well, like Fausto Coppi and Baldini, Felice Gimondi is one of the cycling greats. He still holds the world hour record, by the way. And he's also a previous winner of the Giro d'Italia. And that was in 1984. This is when he set the world hour record, though, on the 23rd of January 1984, when Moser did 51.151 kilometres. Well, that hour record will be under attack this year during the Tour de France by 2 British riders, while we now go back to the time trial here at Senegalia. Andy Hampston, one of the early starters, and the time to beat, well, it's slipping away. At the time he comes in, he's 9th best time. Armand de las Cuevas, who rides on the Benesto team of Indurain, a very underrated rider and a very, very good time trialist. He got closest to Indurain last year in the time trial, a big time trial that opened the time trial section of the Tour de France, when he lost only 3 minutes to Indurain, but he finished 2nd. De las Cuevas now should go top of the leaderboard if he's riding on form. Out on the course, the time checks are indicating he's the quickest. Stephen Roach, the winner of the Tour in 1987. Last couple of deep breaths and away. Roach is still enjoying a very good Tour of Italy and still has the possibility of a high finish if he comes through the Dolomites well. And here's De Las Cuevas coming up. There's the time to beat, and he's well inside Jascula's time as he comes in, 36.08, a 35-second beating. He's top of the leaderboard. Claudio Chiappucci, 10th overall at the moment. Knows that if ending his handicap is the time trial, but you can see the crowd will help him if they can. Claudio Chiappucci must produce a good time trial to stay in the hunt here. This is Roach coming home, but he's slipping away. But it's not a bad time for Stephen, top 10 at the moment. Out on the course with Chiappucci, and now his time is good, very, very good indeed. Chiappucci has pulled off a very special ride here. He stayed very close to De Las Cuevas. Out on the course, 3rd best time at the minute. And now the start of the man that everybody fears, Miguel Indurain. They all say it's not a question of will he win, it's always a question of by how much will he win. Now the time check out on the circuit, 22.19, and he's well clear, 21.45 for Miguel Indurain. Now Chiappucci coming up to the finish. It's been a good ride by Claudio Chiappucci. Jascula is still in 3rd place, and that's the challenge from Claudio Chiappucci. Jascula is a very, very good time trialist, indicating a good ride here by Claudio Chiappucci. He'll get 3rd best so far, 36 minutes, 30.5. And when he recovers, I think he'll be very, very pleased with that performance. It will keep him in the hunt in the Giro d'Italia this year. Gianni Bugno, 4th overall. And even on this slight climb here, he doesn't look as though he's riding as smoothly as he can. Look at the contrast here now as Indurain starts to pick off the riders who started in front of him. And Miguel Indurain is never more in his element than when he's riding at these sort of speeds on the flat roads. He's passing Massimilio Lelli there of the Ariostia team. And down on the seaside, it looks as though Indurain really is in full cry. Now, is he registering here the foundation of his second Giro d'Italia? As Indurain comes up to the finish, De Las Cuevas, his teammate, is the man who still holds the leading position. But look at the time of Miguel Indurain. He is going to annihilate De Las Cuevas' time, that's for sure. So Miguel Indurain has come back to form. He's ridden the way he always rides the big tours, stays hidden in the bunch until he strikes in the time trial. And here at Senigalia, he's doing just that. It'll be best time when he arrives. 35.16.1, a massive 52 seconds improvement over De Las Cuevas. Well, here's Maurizio Fondriest. He pulled the surprise right out at the start at Portoferreo when he won the time trial, but it's not indicating on the time boards there he's going to do it now as the time trials get that little bit longer. And neither for Gianni Bugno. He's gone outside of Stephen Roach's time now. Roach in 12th place, and that's gone. And now he's moving down the lines. He hits the line now. 14th best for Gianni Bugno, and I think, you know, his Tour of Italy has ended just there. Now the pink jersey has the Maglia Rosa worked wonders on the shoulders here of Moreno Argentine. He's riding high. He's never been a great time trial rider. He's been more a roadman sprinter. He's up in 6th place at the time check there. This is Fondriest. And Maurizio Fondriest now heading down towards the finish. And I don't think we're going to see the surprise. In fact, the longer distance hasn't suited Maurizio. De Las Cuevas is the time he's aiming for, but that's going to go by the board about now. Gelfi is the next rider in 3rd place as Fondriest arrives to claim 3rd place. 57 seconds, though, slower than Miguel Indurain. The pink jersey out on the course. Fighting now to hold on to this jersey, but I can't see it. Fondriest, and the times are counting down as Argentine comes to the line. He's lost the lead, 36.16, the 4th best time, even so, for Argentine. That'll keep him high up in the overall, but it won't be in pink anymore. He's conceded a round minute to the new leader of the Giro d'Italia, Indurain. Argentine finishes 4th. Gelfi comes in there with a surprise 5th place, but again Miguel Indurain has claimed the lead after a time trial. Torriani there, the organiser of the race, applauding this wonderful man Miguel Indurain, now the leader of the Giro by 22 seconds from Argentine, who really rode well to hold that place. Ugrimov has dropped down into 3rd slot. So the riders now facing up to their 11th stage, 184 kilometres. You can't get it much flatter than this, can you? And the riders will be very pleased about that. But the weather has changed indeed. Just look at this. Totally miserable conditions. And now would they like to be back on the island of Sicily with temperatures at 105 degrees. The riders are now in very, very miserable conditions indeed. It's the lot of a tour rider. I'm afraid you keep on going, whatever the weather will do to you. A small group always willing to attack has got 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And Fontanelli is one of the riders in this leading group. Over 4¼ hours in this terrible conditions here. And that's Fontanelli with Tibaldi on the far side, the Battaro nearest the camera. The 3 riders who've got the lead here. None of them are going to affect the overall lead, though, at the moment. As they come up towards the finish here now, it's going to be a thoroughly miserable stage for them. And Fontanelli is the rider who's making the plunge for home, and the Navigar rider. And Tibaldi is on the far right of our picture. Now he's switched over. Well, he's still on the right. So the sprint comes now from Fontanelli and Battaro. Fontanelli is the rider who's going for it and looks as though he's going to get it. It's been terrifically heavy rain all day, but Fontanelli will still be a very, very happy man. His stage win in the Tour of Italy. after 4 hours and 17 minutes in the saddle. But this is a stage with the bunch coming in just about 6 seconds behind. The pink jersey now of Miguel Indurain. That's a fitting name right now too, isn't it? And Indurain really not too keen, but 3 minutes and 29 seconds down, and there could well be a new pink jersey because Bruno Leali was in between that group. And in fact, Fontanelli gets the stage, and Batari, Tibaldi and Manzoni again getting another 4th place. But there's a new leader tonight, and it really is a surprise. Bruno Leali gets the greatest moment of his career as he pulls on the pink jersey. He was in the chase group. He's got the lead by just 6 seconds ahead of Indurain, and Indurain has conceded the lead that nobody really expected him to do that. Indeed not, and 6 seconds isn't a lot now. 236 kilometres, this 12th stage from Doza, taking the riders to Asiago with just one climb coming towards the end at Fontanella. And like all of the towns, they always celebrate the passage of the Giro d'Italia. And there are many great veteran cyclists here who just love riding the bike. It's a fabulous country to go cycling in, and there's no guesses for which window that team is supported. Happy days for Bruno Leali this morning. Malizzi Fondriest having to put up with the thought that a rival Italian has won the pink jersey away from Miguel Indurain. One man would like to do just that, no doubt, was Gianni Bugno. So the field facing a long stage today, with the only real threat coming at the end. A second category climb which will lift the riders up to the finishing line. It could be a chance for somebody like Indurain to get his 6 seconds back and reclaim it, and that could be why Armand de las Cuevas has started the attacks today, to try and draw the string out of Leali's team and make them work to chase him down. This is Franco Coccioli, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, and Claudio Chiappucci. So the riders now beginning to relish the thought of approaching the Dolomites. Still a couple of days away. Indurain is sitting there in number 2 order. And there's Bruno Leali. It's amazing, isn't it? But once you pull on a race leader's jersey, what a better race you ride. He's now riding at the front. He's watching the moves. He's going to hang on to that lead for as long as possible. 18 seconds is the gap to this small leading group, with Coccioli up here. De las Cuevas is now tagged onto the back there, in fact, of Claudio Chiappucci. This is a good breakaway. There's little Claudio, who's had his great moments spoiled by Miguel Indurain in previous tours of Italy. And De las Cuevas now reverting to the role of policeman there, because Chiappucci is far too dangerous to work with, and Coccioli's gone back into the field. And we've got the Mercatoni Uno riders. I think it's Baldato there. No, Bordelani, sorry, Fabio Bordelani, who's brought the riders up to Coccioli. De las Cuevas will certainly speak Spanish. I'm not too sure whether he speaks Italian, because he's normally in the command of this rider here, Miguel Indurain, who's having to do a lot of work as well now. And that's a strange sight to see Indurain pacing the leader of the Tour. It normally would be the other way around. But the riders continue their climb up. It looks as though Chiappucci may have made a great move here. De las Cuevas is hanging on, but doing nothing at all to assist the attack. About 15 kilometres to go to the finish. And we're on this climb now, which will take them up to 745 metres at Fontanella. Marvellous crowd, the north of Italy here, the fans loving their sport immensely. And there's nothing better for them than, of course, to see their man Claudio Chiappucci setting the pace. And now the chase down coming here from Leali's team. Stephen Roach coming up, and in fact Stephen Roach has got things to say here to the riders here of Leali, and I would think it would be something like, why are you chasing? Because Indurain is the man who should do the chasing. And because, and in fact Roach almost fell there. There was a clash of wheels, and that's Indurain just fending Roach off. But I think, you know, Roach has a point, because Miguel Indurain is the rider who should really pick up the pace, although the unwritten rule might be that the leader of the Tour should do the chasing. And Chiappucci now finding that De las Cuevas also will not work, and I think they can see the field coming up here, and it's all over. Well, that's a shame. But that was a dangerous attack, and it's good to see that they are willing still to attack the leaders of this Tour, and especially Miguel Indurain. But it's all over. And now the counter-attacks are coming. They're just over the top of this little climb, but it continues to be hard all the way to the finish. And now there's a number of attacks going off the front. Well, it's a good chance now. Leali has pulled this race back together with the help of the Benesto riders, but he had to finish it off himself. Konishev is going clear here at the front. He's already got one stage win. He might be inspired by the fact he once won the Amateur Tour of Italy back in 1988 before he turned professional the following year and took the silver medal in the World Championships behind Greg LeMond. And Bunyo here too, watching all of the time, riding quite a solid race, but seemingly unable to get away from the field. Well, I think Konishev has got clear of this field. There's plenty of riders trying to catch him up. But there's a split in the main field here. No, in fact, Konishev is at the front of what is a split of about 20 riders. And this is Fondries now and Coccioli. And in fact, that is Konishev trying to get on to the two leaders. But this is a good sprint from Maurizio Fondries here now as he sees the finish. He hasn't won since the time trial on day one, but he's got the lead round the corner. So too has Coccioli gone with him. Coccioli's gone wide and sat up as Konishev takes it right on the line. Dmitry Konishev pulls the win out right on the line there, and that is a great win for him. Win number 2 for Dmitry Konishev. And it'll do nothing to alter the overall, though. Bruno Leali tonight will keep